So in just a few minutes, we're going to start the workshop portion of our meeting from 7 until 7:30, at which point we will begin our regular agenda. And tonight, for workshop, we're going to talk about, have a pre-review of a local law, currently with the City Council, still in progress, regarding modifications to R15 zoning.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to give a little bit of general background. The council, as you guys know, I think there's been a number of items that have come before you that the council is considering ways to allow for additional housing and specifically affordable housing within the city of Beacon. So one of the aspects they started talking about recently was looking at potential, the T district took over where the parking overlay district was, right? So it's this kind of half a block buffer that surrounds the CMS district. So the council actually originally started looking at that and whether there was potential to expand that T district to a larger area to create kind of a bigger transition landing way, I think, between the Central Main Street district and the residential neighbors.
T district.
The transitional district, zoning district. So in this map that I'm showing here, this is kind of where the analysis started. The T district, the transitional district, is the parcels outlined in black that are, this is a land use map. So we wanted to look at what are the land uses within these districts when we're thinking about adding new uses or taking them away. So originally started looking at the black outlined parcels, which are in the T district, and looking at the R15 that is on either side of that to see whether it made sense to expand the T district. And the differences between the R15 and the T, they both permit single family housing, but the T has additional residential uses. So it permits single family attached, it permits two family, and then it permits multifamily with kind of density restrictions on it based on the size of the lot, and then a small smattering of commercial uses. So that's where the council started, and we started looking at this map. And so what this land use map kind of told us as we were discussing it is there is existing, I'll go down to the real quick so you can see, one family is the really light yellow, and then 2 and 3 family and townhomes are in this brighter yellow, and then multifamily is orange. So when we started looking at the R15s on either side, you can already see that there is kind of a mix of land uses. Let me zoom in differently. A mix of land uses within those R15. There's existing 2 families, there's existing 3 families, as well as some multifamily throughout. Where the conversation went, and then where we're talking about now with the council, is what they felt most comfortable with is kind of smaller steps. So their idea was there's a number of existing 2 families that we would like to make we'd like to make them conforming. Right now they're not conforming. If something was to happen, they were to be damaged more than 50%, they could not come back to what they are. They'd have to revert back to single family. So that was kind of what one of the main goals that was talked about with the council is how do we allow those existing uses to stay and become legalized? And then the conversation was about what uses do we want to add, and where the council went with that is right now they're most comfortable with 2 family. Allowing 2 family. So that's how the conversation switched from an expansion of the T district to now looking at the R15 districts and deciding, looking at the R15 districts and saying, can we just add 2 family as a permitted use within those districts? So that's why you're seeing these kind of just outside of that outlined in this maroon color are the R15s. There's 4 R15 districts in the city of Beacon. There's this one kind of north of Main Street, goes up to Wilkes and kind of follows out Fishkill, south of the Main Street area, east of the creek, and then there's this very small R15 up off of Fishkill Avenue. So now that we switched to kind of considering the addition of, just looking at the addition of 2 family, the council made the decision that looked most appropriate in these 2 R15s that are immediately adjacent to the CMS. If you can see the one over on Mead, there's maybe 1 or 2 existing 2 families over there, but the character of that is predominantly single family. Right now, there's not an existing kind of mix of uses there.
So those would remain existing non-conforming, and then always stay R15?
Yes.
Those particular ones?
Yes, so right now, so then the council at the last meeting discussed now kind of two prongs of this. So to your exact question, they said, okay, but, so maybe we only want to permit new two families to be constructed within certain areas of the
Yeah.
R15s.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they do have a desire to legalize maybe the non-conforming uses that are there, so that if, say, an existing two-family or three-family was to be partially destroyed, that it could build back as that, as long as they do it within a certain time frame. So right now, that is where the local law is going, and they expect to have we had a draft in front of them at the last meeting last night with some modifications. I'll just say we did look at two aspects. We did look at using a buffer, so doing, a distance from Main Street. So from the center line of Main Street, if you said, okay, only R15 parcels that are within 1,000 feet of Main Street, those is where new two families would be permitted. Ultimately, it was decided that that was going to be a little bit trickier. So what they ended up proposing instead was we're going to use streets and do street boundaries. And I'd have to pull up the official map for that, but essentially it's all of this R15 up to Verplank, and Verplank is the northern line now.
That's deep,
Yeah, so if we go back to, I think they were kind
because
of,
the T only runs to, so actually, just so I understand this a little bit better.
Yeah.
Is this creating, this isn't creating a new zoning?
nope. It's working within the existing zoning districts, so we're no longer expanding the T district. The T district is going to stay just those black parcels.
Right, so the T district stays the T district, and
Yes.
that's only about 2
That
blocks
half-
deep,
It's
right?
like a half block.
Half block.
A half block on
Yeah.
either side of Main Street. So maybe in the future, that might be another step, but like I said, they kind of wanted, the council's looking at doing incremental small steps to kind of add housing.
Yeah. So this then alters R15.
This would be, and the only alteration to the R15 is in the use table, the schedule of use table. You would now have a P next to two family with an asterisk next to it, and there's a qualification that it's only within the R15, south of Verplank, north of Roundabout, west of Teller.
Got it. So
Yeah.
it allows within that particular, only that R15 district, two family on any parcel that's an R15,
Within those boundaries.
within those boundaries?
Yes.
Okay.
But
that's
then they're
helpful.
also adding, they asked Corporation Counsel or the attorney to look at a provision that allows for existing two-family, three-family, and multifamily in all R1 districts to have a 12-month period where if there is a destruction of that building for more than 50%, they have 12 months to reestablish that use.
Oh, that's
So
different.
allow the existing non-conforming to be rebuilt if it was damaged, and within this smaller area, allow new two families.
Okay. So quickly then as well, I agree, I think the street boundaries is more crisp.
Yeah.
However, like for example, up to Verplank, down to Rombout,
Mm-hmm.
which side of both of those streets?
So that was the discussion at last night's council meeting. So Verplank, they are thinking it'll just be south of Verplank, so it would just be, I don't know if you can see my pointer. So just the part, and again, that's where that R15 boundary is anyways, for most of Verplank, right? On the
Yeah.
other side of Verplank is a different zoning district. But when you get over to Eliza in that area, the properties on the other side of Verplank, north of Verplank, are not allowed to build new two families. They're outside.
Right, okay.
And then, but Roundabout, there was a conversation that the council decided on that property, on that line, it did make sense for properties fronting on Roundabout. So if you're front, so on both sides of Roundabout.
On both sides of the street?
Yeah. So now we're just trying to draft that language to make that very clear in the code.
And that's approved to moving forward, or that's?
Well,
Nope, it's under conversation. So right now, we're, again, in the very initial phases. So they saw a first draft of the language, which is what they saw last night was an amendment to the use table, right, permitting two-family. And then we started talking about adding this additional language about where that boundary is drawn in terms of that. So it'll be formally circulated to the planning board once they kind of get a version that they're comfortable circulating to the county for comment and the planning board and setting a public hearing. But we thought it was a good idea to bring it in front of the planning board now at its initial kind of concept phases, fill you guys in on the background conversation that has been going on with this,
Yeah.
so that you're not just seeing it next month.
The subdivision on
Mike?
Catherine and Rombout, the subdivision on Catherine and Rombout that we're talking about could, if this passes, turn into 2 multifamily lots? Homes?
Two-family.
Two-family or multifamily?
Is it multi?
Two-family.
Yeah,
Two-
two-family.
two-family.
Two-family only. Well,
Yeah, two-family.
same thing, multi.
Well, the code defines multifamily different than
Yeah, I
two-family,
understand.
so.
But
um,
it's not more than 2,
Not more than 2, correct.
right?
Are there any size constraints with a two-family? Like, does it need to be a minimum size?
Yeah, so there would still be, let me.
That was a good, that was going to be my next question. I give you that look because I live on Rombout.
Okay. Let me pull up
abstain.
there is a bulk regs, so let me look at that, pull this up quick.
Like, how would you distinguish between an ADU and a
So the
two-family?
R15 requires 5,000 square feet per unit, right?
Per
And
unit.
Per unit. So
Right.
you have a minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet. To build in the R15, you have to have a minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet. And then you also have to have 5,000 square feet for each unit. So if you were doing 2 units, if you were doing a 2-family in the R15, if this proceeds, you would need a 10,000 square foot lot or a variance to do that. So that's
Gotcha.
a good point.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys want to make a recommendation for that.
So that's interesting because if you just think about it, it's technically impossible
Yes.
on the majority of lots, specifically on Rombout, to do that without some form of variance.
Without some form of variance or.
Just given the size, I mean, I know
Or
the size of
buying two
all of
lots.
those
I
lots.
think we
they're
did
all-
have an analysis from the county about,
I mean, what about
the
the,
distribution of lot sizes. So let's see, in the R15, there's 214 parcels over 10,000 square feet. So those could do,
Within that catchment area, you just,
within all R15.
Oh, within all R15.
R15
Okay.
districts, yeah. So that, if you can see this table, this is kind of the breakdown. So there are a number of lots that are under 5,000 square feet, where right now they probably are non-complying, right? If they
Yeah, I
even have one
understand.
unit there, because they're less than 5,000 square feet. And then there's the majority, 56% of the properties in the R15 are between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet.
I mean, I think.
It's a good point to have them consider, though, if they do want to actually facilitate.
right.
Two
that's what I'm-
families
Those are
being-
two
That's what I'm
very,
saying.
that's not affordable, like, that, we're not adding affordable housing, we're just adding more housing.
exactly.
And, you
Really
know,
good
I mean,
point.
the existing type of two-family house that you see oftentimes in town is like a slightly larger than normal, perhaps, with like an upstairs and a downstairs unit. And
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
is that would that be allowable?
Yeah, you would still be able to do it. You would have to have a larger size lot, though, I think. So what we're talking about here is that could preclude that from happening, because where you see that, maybe that is a 6,000 square foot lot that has what looks like a single-family home, but it's, 2 flats above each other. So if the council does not amend this minimum square footage per unit, that's going to be hard to do.
Is there a dwelling square footage requirement?
Yeah.
If the
Per-
lot has to be, what's the dwelling per?
That's based on on building code, New York
Gotcha.
State building code, in terms of like what the minimum size of units are.
Gotcha.
The code only regulates that for, I think right now, currently, the Beacon City Code only regulates that for the below market rate units. There's certain minimum square footage requirements.
Okay.
As well as, I think the other aspect is, so you could have, the little bit of a difference here, because you guys recently saw before you, was the ADU regulations, right? And so R15 could also have 2 units. They could have a primary unit and an accessory dwelling unit. But this change in the code would not require homeownership, whereas ADU requires one of the units to be the property owner.
Uh-oh. That's a slippery slope.
Sorry,
Non-home ownership.
renters?
Yeah.
The council discussed that. I mean, I think they have no opposition to renters.
They don't remember the period of time when there was quite a lack of or quite a preponderance of absentee landlords
Yeah.
and little maintenance and bad conditions. I mean, I remember this was a while ago. but-
Yeah. I mean, I think that conversation comes up a lot in terms of when you're talking about housing communities and people's conceptions about homeowners versus renters and absentee landlords, so.
I'm not talking about perception, I'm talking about the practical realities, things that I know the city suffered from and
Yeah.
had to deal with. Again, it was quite some time ago, and it is a different time, but I'm sure they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just back to this whole concept of minimum lot size,
Mm-hmm.
and just as a theoretical exercise, what is the point if it's just physically impossible for
I
a
think this is a
significant
good question that
majority?
they could focus on. And I
Yeah.
mean, so what they did in the T district, right? Because T district, I think to facilitate having multiple units on properties, they did, what you can see here is the I, right? Where the minimum per unit requirement is half of whatever the adjacent one is. So T district is largely adjacent to R15. So in that district, this per unit square footage has been reduced to 2,500 per unit rather than 5,000, which then makes it much more feasible to be able to actually build a two-family on
Yeah.
half of the lots
Has
in the
anyone,
district.
has anyone on the council questioned whether allowing more density really has any, what the chances of actually creating affordable housing? We approved 4 townhomes on Henry Street. The asking price on Zillow is $1.2 million per unit.
Yeah, I think the council's had that conversation a
'Cause I mean,
number
I-
of times
I
about
keep
like-
hearing like, well, let's allow ADUs, let's allow multifamily housing. And to me, it's like, I understand, I feel like your heart's in the right place, but
I don't
is there
think the
anything else
conversation
that
has
can
just been affordable housing,
actually-
it's been housing, right? Like, there's a number of studies in
It's not
Dutchess
doing
County
anything for
about
affordable
a
housing.
need for housing, whether
For-
it's market rate or below market rate.
Yeah, I don't know. I just.
Yeah.
You don't agree that there's a need for housing in Dutchess County?
I agree that
There
there's
may
a
be
need
a
for
need.
affordable housing.
Okay.
There may
Big
be a
time.
need for both. I agree that there's definitely a need for affordable, but is this the right mechanism for achieving either or both?
Okay.
And just in terms of the quantity of housing, to some degree, the types of situations that the city would be creating with this type of new zoning change, I don't know if it's the type that the market is looking for. You know what I mean? It's basically rentals, right?
It's not, there's not going to be any mandate that it's going to be rental. If somebody wanted to split their house into 2 unit, right, if they want. you
Two-unit
could-
condo? That's what I mean. It just doesn't seem like it's the sort of caliber or type.
I think there's instances where the property owner of a two-family lives on that lot. That's not like a
No,
unheard of
that's what I
circumstance,
do.
but sorry?
I have an apartment in my house. It's really common to have a second
Yeah, no, I understand.
floor, yeah.
I understand. But again, my point is that serves a specific type of need. Is the extent of the need just that type, the type we're talking about that would end
No,
up
I
being
think
created
the
here?
council's trying to look at a lot of different ways of increasing housing opportunities in the city, and this seems like this is kind of a smaller, missing middle kind of type, right? That's not necessarily larger buildings on Main Street or infill development in the Linkage District or the CMS. This is another way to allow for more flexibility and opportunity for housing in a smaller sense, right? In many ways, in a sense that can be more contextual with the neighborhood, because many times these two-family units end up looking just like the single-family unit next to them. So rather than having large apartment buildings, this is a way to kind of add soft density.
Yeah, fair.
So I guess comments that I could convey to them is, generally, is this the best way to address the desire to add more housing, to allow more housing in Beacon? And looking at the per unit square footage requirement and whether this would even be feasible to do two-family
I
with
mean, I
this
think just,
requirement, if that's not
again,
amended.
just as an exercise, that's the biggest question. I mean,
Yeah.
if the purpose is to do that,
How many lots?
Could do that.
What
How
does
many
this really
lots
get you?
within the, areas you've identified can actually accommodate?
Yeah.
I would ask the question, should we be doing something to like expand Beacon Housing Authority or, so that we can actually get more truly affordable housing? Something that's way more concrete.
what are the next steps with the city council with this, do you know?
So there is revision to the language regarding the area that's being restricted, right? So
Okay.
that language had to be added to address both sides of Roundabout. Then a draft comes before them again, and if they feel like that's a final draft, then they do the circulation and set a public hearing. So that circulation would be to the county, to the planning board, and then host a public hearing. That would be the time for you guys to give official comments. We could continue on this. And then it goes back before them. After that, they can either continue, they can revise again based on comments.
Yeah. Again, I'm not against at all the attempt to create more housing opportunities. I just worry about the scaling character and this whole concept of what I just described, period of time. And again, it was a different period of time, different economic situations, but that the city went through relative to quite a few absentee landlords, creating a situation where they're back to this, where you've got people not looking after their properties because they're not living there. They have no vested interest in the community, and therefore they're not upkeeping their properties. That's a real concern of mine, especially because this is capturing a part of my property. So I have a personal interest in this as well. And a concern, because I've seen it.
Yeah.
Again, not to say that everything is going to end up badly because of this, but there's that aspect of it that needs to be considered.
Yeah, and there's definitely a role. I think how Beacon came back from that and the time that you're talking about is a bigger focus on enforcement. But that takes capacity and
Takes resources.
resources and manpower.
Attention.
And everything. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
I
Let's
mean,
see.
do you want to consider making the same stipulation for ADUs, that it has to be owner occupied?
I think they did discuss that, but if that's something the board recommends, I can bring that back up. I think they did originally, the council did have a discussion about that.
What was the question?
Owner occupied.
Whether there's a stipulation that they need to be owner occupied?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth considering.
Yeah.
Again, not at all in a, objecting to the underlying intent. Just really, there's so many unintended consequences that come about that sometimes, if we really don't think them through carefully, could end up in, situations that we didn't anticipate. So, okay. Thank you very much. Super helpful. So with that, welcome everybody to the September 2025 meeting of the City of Beacon Planning Board. First item of business will be approval of August minutes, unless there are... Yeah, we're good. Oh, we weren't here last... Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. So we're going to hold that over until next month, or at least until David gets here. No, we would need David and Randall. So we're going to have to wait till Randall gets back. Maybe next year. Yeah, next time I'm absent. Anyway, how come these guys got new tables and we didn't? What's going on here?
Oh, they don't, yeah, Steve appreciates.
Anyway, okay, so we're gonna have to hold over approval of last month's minutes. Thank you, Karen. So with that, we'll go to our first agenda item, and that is the public hearing for 105, 107 Catherine Street. First order of business, actually, let's hear from the applicant first. Just give us a quick update on where you're at.
Sure.
You want me to give you a little rundown of the project itself for the benefit of the public and for the board members that weren't here last
Yes,
week?
please.
Or last month, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a proposed subdivision of a .7 acre parcel located at 105-107 Catherine Street to create 2 lots. The proposed lot line will be located right here, which is a historic property line that was created in 1970. Lot 1, which is the upper lot, has frontage on Catherine Street and will retain 3 existing principal uses: a 2-story multi-family residential dwelling and a 1-story auto repair shop. And the third use is outdoor storage, which is currently occurring on these 2 parcels to the south. Lot 2 is proposed to front on Roundabout Avenue and will be developed with a 1-family detached dwelling. The property is located in the R15 zoning district where 1-family detached dwellings are permitted principal uses. The existing use on Lot 2, outdoor storage, will be discontinued on Lot 2, and there's an existing lot adjacent to Lot 2 that also has storage on it. That will also be discontinued. That's an approved building lot, but we're showing the development of that lot because we're shifting a stormwater line, and just to prove that that lot can be developed after the storm line is repositioned.
So that lot to the south is existing, then so it's not part of the subdivision?
It's not part of the
Got it.
subdivision, not part of this approval, but because a proposed easement will land on it, it needs to be shown on this plan and will be
Makes
part of the
sense. Yep.
subdivision plot.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's 2 existing curb cuts along Roundabout Avenue, so we'll use those for our driveway openings. And there's also existing water and sewer stubs into each of these lots, and those will be used for the water and sewer services for those particular lots. Changes since the last time we saw you folks, we identified existing trees that will either remain or be removed on, this wheel is very sensitive, on the existing conditions plan. Right now on the plan, they're all shown to be removed for the development. I've identified a couple trees that I'll discuss later that might be able to be saved. The front door, garage, front walkway locations are now shown on the plans. We added meets and bounds to the easements. Descriptions and agreements will follow once we finalize that easement. We have been searching for an existing easement on that stormwater line. The surveyor searched back 50 years, didn't find anything to that end, so I have the applicant searching her documents, and we'll do a title search if we need to, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a new easement for the new stormwater line, and any existing easements will be extinguished as part of the subdivision. Existing proposed storm line and material sizes have been updated on the plans. Proposed landscape screening has been added to the rear of lot 1. A note has been added to the plan stating that no structures, pools, fencing, trees, bay windows are permitted within the easement, and this language will also be within the easement agreement to the city. The proposed catch basins have been increased to 4 by 4 foot interior dimensions, and the storm profile has been updated with additional information.
The lots are compliant to...
Lots are fully zoning compliant. Lot 1 will be 22,696 square feet, and Lot 2 will be 7,500 square feet, where 5,000 square feet is required.
Okay. We'll go, I just have a quick question. We've had a lot of conversations on the planning board over our history about homes with garages fronting on the street. And, you know, that idea, that concept has been particularly discouraged. And, you know, just in thinking about the character of at least the homes on that side of the street from Roundabout all the way down, basically, I can't think of a single house that has garages facing the street. And you're actually starting to neighbor a context where houses are set back more significantly from the street than the two that you're proposing. So I'm just thinking about continuity and context here. So I think we want to think about that, talk about that a little bit.
Okay, just to touch on the setback, though, if you look to the right here, this is the front of the adjacent house. This is the front of the adjacent house to the west. So we're sort of splitting the difference between those two.
I ended up on Catherine Street, or Henry Street somehow.
Here's the outline of the
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it can't be at that spot. I think it's just something we really ought to look at, again, for context. And then again, yeah, go
I
ahead, Tim.
apologize. Are we approving the design of a home on this? Or
No,
just a lot?
no, just the concept of the curb cuts and the opportunity for whomever comes and buys these and comes in front of us for certificate of appropriateness
Right.
on the house has the opportunity to put a garage right there in the front of the house. Which again, we've discouraged as a planning board, and I can't, this is something that John used to bring up quite a bit.
Isn't there something in the code about
I
garages?
was just about to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll have to look back, but I think we permitted them on the Henry Street property, so I remember we talked about it in
But that's a
terms,
T district, which I think is different.
does not have any different design regulations than the R1 districts do, though. T district, remember, doesn't have like a certain section like CMS or linkage does. So I think there's language in there that we talked about. I can pull that up in terms of, I actually don't know if there was. I think we had the conversation around Henry, but ultimately there wasn't a requirement for them not to be facing. I think it was more contextual.
We did have
and
that
we looked at-
conversation about it on Henry.
On Henry, we did.
Because there were townhomes, and there was really no way to,
So I think we looked
You know,
at character of
but
the
it
neighborhood
was-
and context.
Right,
Yeah.
and so this is, even though the underlying zoning is similar, this is a very different context than Henry. A very different type of proposed structure as well, within a context that's pretty consistent. So, the addition of a different language, not to say I'm all, for consistency in all cases, I just think contextually, it's just out of context to have garages fronting Main Street. And again, this goes back to a long history of our previous planner, quite discouraging, which I agreed, this concept of curb cuts and
Calls them snout nose houses, I believe.
snap nose?
Snout
nose?
Snout houses.
That I don't remember.
Snout houses.
Snout houses.
Oh, yes,
something
the
like
snout
that.
houses.
Yeah,
Yep.
I've heard him talk about it.
So I'm just, I guess, curious, from the applicant, is this something that is absolutely necessary?
It's what they want. I could speak to them and see if they have a different house design in mind. The only thing I worry about is parking. Are we going to be required to provide 2 spaces per lot? Because we could provide a space in the driveway for each lot. And in that case, if we were to eliminate the garages, we would still be parking compliant.
I think I guess the other option would be garages on the side. If you're looking at the context of the neighborhood, right, there are garages on some of them, they're just to the side of the house rather than at the front of the house. So you could still have a garage and a driveway. Obviously not looking at the dimensions, you'd have to, but I think that's another solution,
They're
right? It's
usually way in
just
the back.
having the
Yep.
physical garage door in front of the house, the primary aspect.
Right, but you're talking garage facing the side of the house, correct?
No,
Because these lots aren't wide enough to do that.
Yeah, I don't think there's
Not
any
facing the-
attached
I'm trying to look at this.
garages on that whole spot, and the garages are separate and all the way in the back side of their property.
I'm looking at 235.
No garage, big door garages.
It wouldn't,
Go ahead.
be impossible to put a garage on the side. You just wouldn't be able to do that and have 2 lots. You could have a single lot, you could put 2 family on that single lot, I believe, right?
You'd be over
Or, no, you couldn't
2,000.
right now, not until this thing is
R15.
passed. And then you could have a garage on the side. What I'm saying is, it's not impossible to develop the lot without, without having a garage in the front of the building, right? Or parking in front of the building.
Like if you look at the neighbor at 230, right, they have, it's not a garage, it's a carport awning, you know, but the driveway is on the side of the house. There's a covered space to the side. So I think, and so what you're seeing on the front of that house is a front porch and an entryway,
Right.
right, with the parking kind of secondary to it. So
Yeah.
again, you'd have to look at the dimensions of the site, but that's an alternative
Yeah.
to just like not having a garage or covered
Right,
parking.
just
So the
about.
whole street works.
Yeah, just about every single house on that side of the street, from Teller down to, I can't believe I don't know my own cross street,
Chestnut.
Chestnut, has a driveway with, or without a garage. Your garage is usually in the back, but you're still able to get 2 cars parking. For context, I live 2 doors away. We usually park on the street to help calm traffic, because people use Rombout as a really nice raceway to circumvent Main Street. So, and, you know, just this idea of garage doors presenting the sort of front to a very walkable street, it's not welcoming. And that's one of the reasons why I've always agreed with John that it's not something we want to encourage. So I would suggest that you spend some time with your applicant and talk with them about the context that they're building in and whether they actually need these garages.
Okay, will do.
So with that, we'll go to our planner and our engineer, and then we'll make our way around the board.
Yep, so my comment, within the subdivision section of the code, there is a requirement that no tree shall be removed from its natural position, except where necessary and incidental to the development and improvement of the lots. So I think, as they noted in the introduction, they did identify, I think, 10 existing trees on the site, and right now they're all slated to be removed. So this will play into the conversation, I think, about driveways and potential garages or not, but I guess my question was, can we discuss whether any of those existing mature trees are worth saving and then can be retained as kind of required by the code?
Yeah, I agree. Another piece of context, that part of Rombout, for some reason or another, has a dearth of street trees. And, you know, and just thinking about what I would consider mature eastern pines on the site, those actually provide a good amount of relief along that walk. I know that's not a sidewalk side, but people do walk down that side of the street. And visually, they provide a significant amount of relief. Also, just as a practical matter, the fact that there are no street trees for a good length, and the exposure that those front yards get, whoever's living there and trying to maintain a property there will benefit from some shade.
I couldn't agree more. And this graphic I have up here shows the location of trees relative to the development. So I've identified one of the pines. This one probably can be saved. And then there's 2 junipers that could be saved. But these pines in the middle of the driveway, and again, if we come in with a different layout, that might be a different case, and we'll certainly try to save any tree that we can. But these little junipers are not the most attractive trees. I think my applicant would rather get rid of those and maybe
Yeah.
plant a couple new
I'm more
trees.
concerned about the big pines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're centrally located on the lot, so it makes it difficult to develop the lot.
Okay.
We'll certainly take a look at it and try to save as we can. And the good news is they're flat lots, so there's not really any significant grading to be done to develop them. But, you know, we have utility lines here. I don't think it's a good idea to have trees near them. Again, the new utility lines are from the existing stubs here to the house, so we could turn those, possibly. It's not really advisable to do that with a sewer line, but a water line, you can do that. So we'll take a look at it, but we're going to do everything we can to...
I hope so. Look, we scrutinize everything, but you just happen to have 2 planning board members who live 2 doors away.
Right.
So we're going to very closely
Did you get your letter?
scrutinize it, too. Certainly did.
All right.
See the sign?
There's like 170 of them.
Anyway, okay, so anything else, Natalie?
No, that was my comment.
Great.
For engineering comments. So the applicant did have the city building department conduct an I&I investigation in August, I should say. They found that there was no cross connections between the drainage and sanitary sewer system. As the applicant's engineer mentioned, they were doing easement research. We've requested that any of the easements that they do find to cross the property be added to the plans. Applicant also discussed the drainage relocation. The one comment that we do have is the project engineer shall further investigate the proposed relocation of the 30-inch drainage line into the structure on Roundabout Avenue. Shifting the 30-inch line as proposed may conflict with the existing 18-inch drainage pipe entering the structure from the west. Also just trying to keep in mind the integrity of the structure that we're tying into. If we cut out too much of the structure, we just want to make sure that we're not going to collapse the structure as well. Other than that, minor construction detail revisions. That is all our comments.
Thank you. Board, any questions, comments?
Just reinforcing what you've already expressed about the garages.
Awesome. We have a little work to do on...
Double on that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, sorry.
Especially since they're built together. I mean, you're doing two together, so you're creating like a row house. There's not a single garage facing front on this entire block.
Anything, Karen?
No, nothing additional.
I mean, as a neighbor, I welcome the subdivision to happen, and a build to happen there. I think it's great, because right now it's just trucks and storage and just dog park,
Right.
right? So anything's better than that except for front-facing garages.
Okay, so we have a little work to do relative to, we have a draft neg deck. We can discuss any thoughts, questions on that before we think about action. Okay, so I'll accept a motion to adopt negative declaration.
Motion.
Motion by Karen,
Second?
second by Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Then, without further ado, I'll accept a motion to open public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Len,
Second.
second by Karen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now, we are in public hearing. Anyone here who would like to share their thoughts on this subdivision, this applicant? Yeah, please, come on up. State your name and address, and you've got 3 minutes.
I also have a 3-year-old here.
Hey, neighbor.
Hi. My name's Brian Dressen.
Who's your little friend?
Dressen. We live at 234 Rombout, so just one over from the property adjacent to it. So pretty much everything we wanted to discuss or just mention has already been brought up, which is saving the trees is rather important for curb appeal on it, on the block. But I guess there's more information now that there's going to be garages built facing the front of the street. Is that these just like traditional garages? Like is,
So, yeah, currently...
that was new information here, so that
Yeah.
kind of overrides the desire to just save the trees. So I guess it'd be a plea to Catherine Properties to please save as many as you can. And then also, there's every house in the block has a garage behind the house with a driveway running along the left or right-hand side. So I don't see why you couldn't do the same thing here. So as another person on the block looking for consistency, we'd make a plea for you to please keep that in mind.
Great,
That's it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? She can have 3 minutes too if you want. No.
No. Oh,
Okay.
She thought about it, though.
Okay. No one else? Discussion around closing the public hearing. Yes, please. We usually don't take questions, so if you have comments, yeah, please.
I apologize, it was also the high school open house, so I just walked in, I might have missed a few things. My name is Leslie Deschler Kanasi. Buckland is our family name, we're at 51 South Chestnut, so we're actually behind our backyard where it goes right up to the daycare that's currently there.
Yep.
So this doesn't impact us directly, other than we're excited to see 2 single-family homes coming. So I apologize if I missed it, what we talked about, the sewer line. We just had storm drain. We just wanted to be sure that Several families rely on the existing storm drain and water lines to prevent flooding in their yards, ours being one of them, but there are several families right there. We just are curious, the developer's plans to move these lines may include comprehensive safeguards and engineering assessments to ensure existing properties remain protected, which seems pretty straightforward. Any disruption to these critical systems must be completed and fully tested before any other complications. We just, as many of us in Beacon, feel really kind of overwhelmed. There's a big project on Henry Street that impacts us. There's a one on our corner, the art garage, that seems to be stalled. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if it's appropriate to name, and maybe it's not at this time, the rest of the parcel. Is it owned by the same company? I know I can't ask questions, but this seems really lovely. I'm curious what the height restrictions are in the neighborhood and if those exist. I did try to find that information for single-story and two-story homes, if there's a height restriction. I know a lot of the new development, they come in and they get very, very, very tall. So I don't need to mention all of that, to keep that in mind. And how much time I have? If there is view corridor protections, if there's architectural review requirements, if there's clear enforceable commitments, so once the variance is passed, it doesn't become a different kind of dwelling or become multi-unit or extra tall or whatever. And just to think again about the cumulative impact assessment, since there's so much going on. So primarily you all will be seeing me again, and many of us, as this develops, because it's such a large space. We're in a child care crisis at the moment. There is a child daycare center and school right behind, and there's some affordable housing, which I believe is actually somewhat affordable in that apartment unit. So I just wanted to say that this is a big project. We're super excited. It's so far only 2 single-family homes. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm surprised, Teresa. Okay, so any thoughts, discussion about closing public hearing?
Is there any reason to keep it open while we're just learning more about whether any of the trees can be saved, or some of the design details of the homes, or do we feel like?
Yeah, I think it may be useful to stay open for another month. You're coming back, obviously, right?
I agree. I think that the garage issue warrants the ability for more comments.
Yes, we'll come back without garages on the front, and we'll look at the existing trees, and we'll provide additional trees if we can't save the trees.
Thank you.
Great.
You don't seem happy about this.
Well, I feel like it's only one lot. We're not talking 2 lots here. The other lot is just shown for developmental,
I know.
so it's not a big project.
So-
It's one residential lot.
Yeah. It's still a project, it's still in front of us, we still got to give it the same scrutiny, so I appreciate it.
Well, can
that you-
I ask this? If the board is comfortable, can we have a resolution drafted for next month?
We already have draft resolution.
You do?
Yep.
Okay. All right, then I'll see you next month.
See you next month.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We want people to leave here happy. Customer service, that's what we're all about, right? All right, so that brings us to our next application, 291 Main Street. Review of application for site plan approval, mixed-use commercial and residential, submitted by Telephone Building Beacon LLC. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. If I may, typically I do this later in the agenda where I ask to jump around and jump an extension request in. Without the benefit of council, might I be able to request that maybe we adjourn this matter?
Yeah, if you want to move it.
Move it back just behind the 3 subsequent matters. I mean, you can put it wherever you want, but that way we can kind of get through. I think council will
Yes,
come from
no
her
problem.
open house. My open house is tomorrow.
Yeah, she said she'd be here by about 8:30.
So then, if I may, then maybe we'll adjourn it to speak next to the application for 300 Main Street.
Yeah, so we'll move to 300 Main. I thought you were going to ask for your extension to be moved up.
No, none of those.
So then, yes, we have next on the agenda, this is continued review of application for site plan approval, mixed-use commercial and residential, 300 Main Street.
All right.
Good evening again.
With that, good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Taylor Palmer with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the applicant. Tonight, I am joined by my colleague Jessica Zalen, as well as the project architect R.A. Siegel, together with Mike Bodendorf of Hudson Land Design. I hear you got a resolution on the last matter. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we are before you for our continued review of the site plan application to construct 3-story mixed-use commercial and residential building. After the public hearing was opened at the July 8th meeting, it was closed at your August meeting, and the applicant has worked to address comments from the public and the board. The seeker review was also completed back in July. For the benefit of the folks that didn't get to join us at the August meeting, we did go through the architectural and visual character refinements to the building, which included the proposed wall sconces that were replaced with more modern-looking sconces, and additional revised lighting details were incorporated into those plans. Just giving you all a quick update from where we were and what's incorporated into your resolution. Additionally, the cornice at the top of the oriel window has been modified to further define that feature and echo the building cornice detail. In response to public comments about delivery vehicles on Main Street in North Cedar, in the vicinity of the property, a striped no parking for loading sign was provided along the Main Street frontage to accommodate deliveries. And in further response to the board and public comments at the last meeting, a proposed trash enclosure has been shifted away from the rear lot line of the premises and will be separated from the rear lot line by a line of trees and landscape area. From the last meeting, as we did note in our August 26th submission, we increased the size of those plantings based on requests from the members of the public, specifically the abutting property at 10 North Cedar. In addition to singular long enclosure, we replaced that with 8 separate smaller enclosures, which again is enclosed on all sides. The rear courtyard has been modified to include landscaping along all property lines, resulting in minor increases in the landscaped area at the property and a larger patio area within the courtyard. The proposed shadow box fence was also modified to a solid privacy fence, and a retaining wall has been provided along the rear of the property. We also adjusted slightly those details on the shadow box fence. So with that, we did also have a chance to review the draft resolution. We provided mostly just typographical feedback to the city's attorney.
Thank you. We'll start with engineer. Any items you want to highlight from your review?
They provided a construction cost estimate that was reviewed by our office and found acceptable. Other than that, we have no other comments.
Thank you. Natalie?
Same. I think Taylor covered most of it, but there's been conversation about trash storage, landscaping, adjacent neighbors, front of the architecture, lighting, the new street tree that's being proposed. So all the previous comments from my letters have been addressed.
Great, thank you. Board, we do have draft resolution. Any further questions or notes to the applicant or questions of engineer or planner?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. And I wanted to follow up specifically on this one with the trash. Can you please walk me through
Sure.
how any of this trash, its smell, its pieces, its animals, anything is not going to migrate to the neighbor behind?
Sure.
Good evening.
Hey, Ari.
Yeah, so we changed the layout and pulled it away from the back fence. So that was the first thing. And then we're using like a manufactured trash enclosure product that, is pretty much fully sealed. So, between moving it away from the neighbor and, landscaping behind it and between, and then using this, product that has a cover on it, we think we're addressing that pretty well.
What's the fencing between this property and the back neighbor? Has that been, how tall is that? What's that made of?
Oh, it's wood fence. The style is like a shadow box fence, but we're putting a solid panel in there.
Got it,
So
okay.
we're actually creating, a solid fence, but with that look of the horizontal shadow box.
Okay. And about just how far is the distance between the backside of the trash container to the fencing?
I think it's about 5 feet.
About 5 feet?
4 or 5 feet, yeah.
And is public comment still open?
No.
No?
No.
Curious, Arya, you mentioned the trash enclosures, each on a concrete pad with horizontal treated wood privacy fence. And you mentioned something about it being covered. So is it just enclosed around the 4 sides?
Is it top as well?
Does it have a top?
They wheel it out through here to the front.
Yeah, do we have a detail of that?
Vehicle access back here.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what, I don't have that, there's a cut sheet, which I don't have.
There is?
with
Can
me, but
you
yeah,
supply that cut sheet?
Yeah, I can give you that. Yeah.
Got it. Is it like a wood material, a metal material, composite? What is it?
I think it's the composite.
Is it intended to be enclosed on the top as well?
I believe so, but I want to confirm that. But I think that was the idea, because we were, you know, there were a couple of neighbors who had spoken about that, and we wanted to make sure it was as enclosed as it could be.
Yeah, and you've got people living in your building on upper
Right.
floors. They're going to have a view
Yeah.
down into this thing, so
Yeah.
might be nice. Yeah.
And just for the board's benefit, we did also reach out to the property neighbor, the owner themselves. You'll hear this again when we speak to the 14 North Cedar application, and explicitly went through these proposals and heard no further comments. So that was post-public hearing, but we did specifically reach out about this proposal and that proposal.
I mean, you reached out to them or you got their approval?
We communicated to them, they asked us specifically just what we were proposing, and we sent that information to them.
And they say, thank you, that works well for us. We love what you're doing.
I don't think.
Well, at the
I
last
don't
meeting, we
think so.
noted also that that neighbor is selling the property.
Yeah,
So-
I was going to say, I ran into one of the neighbors who spoke at the last public meeting on Sunday morning while walking the dog, and they said, we decided to put our house up for sale, and scram, this is too much for us.
Right, and we don't know, again, with all due respect, we've done a lot on this application to address those comments and feedback.
It's
and they
kind of not
provide no
relevant.
further-
It's
Yeah,
kind of not
that's
relevant.
really not
so-
because you pile, how many people live in this unit? And last we spoke, we were like, you should put the trash inside, and you were like, yeah, okay. And then I missed a week, and now we have trash cans still
No, we
outside.
had a single enclosure, one large dumpster,
Mm-hmm.
and the plantings were smaller. So, and we had it set up to the property line. So we were asked to move it back from the property line, adjust it further with more landscaping, which
Mm-hmm.
we've increased the height of, and we set it back further from the property and changed it from one enclosure to the trash cans that are also enclosed on all four sides. So we adjusted it 4 different ways, so we've enclosed it,
Mm-hmm.
and we also moved it from the property and then added 2 additional features to buffer it from that property.
Are these roll-in cans? Just your standard carton rolling cans?
Because you'll
So
have
1,
the
2,
different
3, 4,
tenants.
5, 6, 7, 8 cans of garbage then get rolled out to the front street of this. How many units is this serving?
What was it, 8
8 units?
apartments and the, yeah, and then there's the commercial space.
Thank you.
Okay. We do have draft resolution. Anything-
sorry.
You had something?
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, if I recall correctly, there was a note on the submission about the applicant or the owner will consider the use of acoustical glass. Did I recall that correctly?
Yeah.
Can you talk to that a little bit, and then I may have a follow-up question.
Yeah, I mean, the question came up about, you know, because there's the bar next door, and, you know, how should those windows facing that, you know, be additionally protected, you know, if they should be, but, I mean, he's going to look at that and find a window that, but that's more for his protection than for
Right,
the
well,
other way.
I guess the reason I'm concerned is that, and we went through this quite a bit with like, you know, the Prophecy Theater. We have the noise ordinance, which I'm looking at, still says, you know, during nighttime hours, sound admitted from the commercial establishment, including but not limited to amplified or non-amplified sound and patron noise, indoors or outdoors, may not be plainly audible inside the dwelling of an affected person with all windows and doors of the dwelling of the affected person closed. So I guess what I'm just asking this question in terms of, we have an operating business that has an outdoor, you know, garden dining area. We're going to construct a structure adjacent to it with residential units. We have a very strict noise ordinance in the city where it's like, if you can hear anything, you know, we talked about this during Prophecy Theater, it's not like a decibel rating, it's, you know, nothing may be plainly audible with all the windows closed. And I'm just saying that, I guess I would strongly recommend the acoustical glass so that we don't create a situation where there could potentially be an immediate contravention for an existing business. You know, I don't know what our ability is to.
The applicant, just like everybody else, has to follow the code, or follow the law, so they have to follow the noise ordinance. And so, you know, yeah, anything you can do to mitigate the need for somebody to call
I
the
guess
cops
it's like
on
it's
you,
almost like a good neighbor thing.
then do
yeah.
that. But we can't
that place is bananas.
necessarily Sorry?
That place is bananas.
Yes.
Is it? I don't know, I've never been there, but I guess I think, you're right on the line, so you're
Yeah.
going to be,
No,
Bunch of
you
bananas,
know,
yeah.
in the sense,
because-
if you want to get
yeah.
along with a neighbor who's an existing business, you might do something to help your tenants not immediately have a noise contravention, so.
Yeah, something to think about.
No, and no, because we talked about it, we spoke to the
Yeah,
applicant
but it just says,
about that,
we'll think about it, is kind of way I read the note, or will be considered.
I mean, he just wants to, see what he needs to do.
Just try not to apply a specific application. If there's a better window opportunity or there's some other way to mitigate the noise or buffer that for the tenants, there has to be some opportunity for them to explore that during the build-out process and the building permit. So we identified it because it was a comment from the board. It's not a conditional, this is not a special permit application, it's a site plan approval. The Prophecy Theater matter involved a special.
Yeah, and I know
just- I just
it's
wanna
not
for the
your
record-
noise, you're not generating the noise, you would just be protecting your
Well,
tenants
yeah, this is
from
not a special
potential
permit
noise.
application. That was a special permit
I
application.
totally understand,
Next to
but it's just
single-family residential.
we're aware of
It's a
the
good neighborhood.
details of the noise ordinance and,
As long as everybody follows the law, everybody should be fine.
Yeah, as we clarified, our arcade is just a walkway, not an actual arcade.
Okay, great. So, draft resolution. Any thoughts on the resolution itself, specifics? Otherwise, I'll accept a motion to adopt.
Just to confirm, we're talking about the
Mike.
revised.
Need your mic, please.
Just to confirm, we're talking about the revised resolution that was
Yes.
circulated shortly before the meeting.
Yes, I
right?
understand there were a couple of
Typographical,
grammar,
there's really no
right,
meaningful
typographical,
substantive
yes,
comments.
which I know Jen has in her possession. It's actually here.
No, it's here. Yeah, I would
Yeah,
just,
exactly,
okay.
yes.
So, motion to adopt the resolution as amended most previously prior to the meeting.
Well said. Motion by David.
Second?
Second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on then to continued review of application for site plan approval, residential 4-unit multifamily dwelling, 14 North Cedar, submitted by Cervone Perucci Realty.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Taylor Palmer with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the applicant. Tonight, I'm joined again by my colleague Jessica Zalin, as well as R.A. Siegel, the project architect, and our traffic consultant for this matter is Rich D'Andrea. The property owner and engineer, Angelo Pucci, is also here with us. As you stated, Mr. Chairman, we are here before you for the continued review of the applicant's proposal to construct a new 2-story, 4-unit multifamily dwelling at the property, along with associated site improvements, including a parking area. Just to update the full contingency of the board, as you know, the public hearing on the application was closed at your August meeting agenda, and the seeker process was also completed at that time. In response to comments from the August 12th meeting, as is more fully detailed in our August 26th submission to the board, the height of portions of the wood stockade fence located within the front yard setbacks proximate to North Cedar Street and Church Street have been adjusted from the 6 feet to 4 feet, which was a code requirement identified the city engineer, for compliance with section 223.13G1 of the zoning code. Portions of the existing and proposed stockade fencing outside of the front yard will be maintained at this height of 6 feet. And the existing wood stockade fence along the lot line of the property and the adjacent property at 10 North Cedar will remain. Additionally, a planting schedule for the proposed landscaping has been provided, and the landscaping plan has been modified to again increase the size of the proposed red maples in the southwestern portion of the property to provide more immediate screening. We're certainly willing to also adjust those. I think the city's planner noted something to the effect of flowering dogwoods or otherwise, so we're certainly open to that as well. Following the meeting, we were also in contact with the neighbor at 10 North Cedar regarding these proposed changes to the landscaping and the fencing. Just to close out some remaining updates that we noted in our submission, the proposed siding color for the multifamily dwelling has been identified as Benjamin Moore Mohegan Sage, and charcoal gray painted wood posts, railings, and balusters? I'll leave it to REA or the architects here. The snow storage area has been identified. We have also used information from the existing traffic signage, concrete curbing, utility poles and overhead wires in vicinity of the property, so that was all added on to the plans. Mounting heights for the site lighting have been identified, and we have lighting isolines that have been added as well. And then lastly, additional and refined utility drainage and grading details have been incorporated onto the plans. Otherwise, similar to the prior application, we did have a chance to review the draft resolution that's before you this evening, and again, provided, again, non-substantive typographical comments back to the city attorney.
I got a question,
Yes.
and it goes specifically to what you're actually building? Because there's, this rendered view, which has very different elements, and they're details, but they make a difference than what you're showing on the elevation. So instead of me, doing a guessing game, which one are you building? Because there's some differences. And like I said, they make a difference.
It's the one that's going to be Benjamin Moore Mohegan Sage, but I'll let Aria
It's not just the
speak.
color.
I know. I'll let Aria speak to it.
Because we get caught in this situation where we approve stuff, and we spend a lot of time talking about it. And then what gets built is different in details, there's field changes. And in this instance, I want to avoid that because, like I said, you're either building what you're drawn in the rendering or you're building what you've drawn in the elevation. And I just want to know which one you're building, which one we can expect to see.
I mean, normally the elevation is the one that, supersedes the rendering image.
So I can reasonably assume then, or what you're telling me is that for a fact you're going to be building the ramp with the railings.
Right.
Okay. And then you're also going to be on the circular elements up in the gables. You're going to be trimming that out the way you've drawn it on the elevation with those keys? Because you're not showing that on the rendering.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that was a product that we found, yeah. Yep,
It's going to look just like that?
yeah,
You sure?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Natalie?
So a lot of the comments have been addressed through the revisions. I think my one remaining comment, at the last meeting, there was a lot of discussion about whether the trees could be retained. I think they had someone go out there and look, and that they're not in good condition and/or impacted by the development. So I think there was discussion both about, there's a magnolia tree that kind of provides an ornamental effect there, as well as if you look at the street view, there's kind of nice shading that's happening from those trees. So my one small comment was, and your landscape art, or your engineer can correct me, but I feel like the dogwoods are a little bit smaller and ornamental, so I was wondering if there could be some variation there along the street line so that we're getting shade trees for the new sidewalks as well as this kind of ornamental feature. So it was just a little bit of variation there in the landscaping plan. Maybe Karen, you have
There
more.
are overhead wires that they need to consider also.
Okay.
I think to the answer question, we're amenable to the variation, so we can add that to the final plan and make a more specific note on the plan that the elevations or the design that's going to be built.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, just take the rendering off, so there's no question, because I don't want somebody coming back
Or
to
we
me
can move it to a
saying-
different sheet, so it's not.
Yeah, so no conflicting.
Yep.
Thank you.
And that's going to, in your resolution as amended, will note those site plans sheets to be revised pursuant to the comments, so.
Thank you, okay. Our engineer.
Our comments are, there will be stormwater maintenance agreement required. We are currently reviewing the construction cost estimate at this time. And the one thing that we really have a comment on is the lighting. Sheet 5 of 11 shows lighting, and they note the bollards are to be mounted at an 8-foot mounting height. The property is, the fencing along the side of the property line is going to be 6 foot in height, so we're really just questioning how there won't be light spillage over the fence at the property line.
Good question, thank you.
That's it.
Will the engineer speak to it?
Yeah,
I'll see a cut plan on
We're going to change the height to, Angelo Perucci, applicant and engineer. We're going to change the height from 8 feet to 5 feet. And when we change that, we'll still hit the codes and no spillage will leak over to any properties. So that's the plan.
5-foot height bollards?
Yes.
That's a tall bollard. It's not a bollard anymore. It's like it's not a bollard anymore, that's like a person.
The
Is
manufacturer.
there a spec on here of that? He just suggested that they would change that.
I think we
Okay.
have
They
a
it on the
detail
plans.
on here.
Cool.
The image of it is on sheet 5. It's a photo image.
The new suggestion or the old one?
I mean,
It's just a bollard.
I believe it'd be the same light, just an alternate mounting height.
Yes.
At 5 feet high, it's kind of right in eye level.
Right.
So you might want to consider lowering it so it's not at eye level.
Also, if you're in a wheelchair. I appreciate you going down, though.
Yeah, we can go lower, we can go
Yeah.
3.5 feet, that's not an issue.
Yeah, if you could look at it lower than 5 feet.
Yeah,
5
we could do
feet.
3.5, that's
It's just an
3.5,
outlook.
4. Yeah, it's fine.
So we just have to make sure we capture this. This is something you called out in your letter?
Yep.
So I understand that the resolution directs you to comply with all comments, but I just want to make sure, we don't have Jen here, but that we somehow with the resolution memorialize that specific height. So do you want to wait till she gets here? Or do you want, I mean, it's on the record.
It's on the record, and it's also in the comments that are, I know specifically, so, I mean,
Well, he just says lower it.
right.
And then we just decided it's going to be 3 feet. So I want to make sure that, we said lower it, you lower it a foot, and then you're compliant.
Right, and
but
Mercedes
it's
is
not-
also taking the minutes, so I think.
That's what I'm saying, it's in the
yeah.
record. So as long as we as a group, without our attorney, we're flying blind here.
Oh, my.
Mercedes, did you get that specifically, the
Careful, everybody.
3.5-foot bollard height?
Yeah, okay. All right, good. So that makes me comfortable asking for motion to adopt resolution.
Can I make
Yeah,
one
please,
more
Jim.
comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's more just a question for everyone here. Church Street, North Cedar Street, and when you take Church and you go even further east, is horrible sidewalks. It's just infamously bad sidewalks all over there. Yet we got this new development that happens on the corner that you can have nice shiny new sidewalks from the start and the end of it. What is the plan as a city to address stuff like this? How can we create a situation where we're going to have people in, possibly wheelchairs, baby carriages, all of that having a lovely time walking around this little corner, but to get to that corner and to exit that corner is kind of a hazard.
Just like Old Beacon.
Yeah.
Right, but we're developing this stuff in a way that it's very individualized to the development, and it has no consideration for what is going on with, like, what is it, the Magical Moon shop that's now in that corner over there? Like, what is happening there? So if a new family walks out of the front of your structure, takes a right, walks 30 feet, what do?
The city
They
has
walk in the street now.
The city is executing a repair program. It may take a while for them to
They
get
are.
to
There's
these.
two ways that it gets done in the city, right? There is language in the code that gives the planning board the ability in site plan review, individual site plan review, to think about sidewalks and provision of sidewalks. We got into the same conversation on the Fishkill Avenue properties, right, where there is no sidewalk. Someone wanted to provide one, but how is that going to align? And it was ultimately ended up to hold off on requiring that to be built out. But it's a difficult thing, and many communities face it, right? Because the municipality can go out there at their cost and build them in the public right away, or what you're seeing here is taking advantage of a private property that is being redeveloped and requesting them to provide it. And as it fills in, you have to kind of connect the neighboring parcels. So I agree with you that in some ways it's piecemeal, and then where the city can, they are doing a more comprehensive sidewalk improvement program, but they just can't do the whole city at one
Some
time.
Totally
parts of the
understand. It's
city,
just
we're
when we-
responsible for our own sidewalks, correct? I know, like on
For maintenance and stuff,
on
yeah.
Wolcott Avenue where I live,
But they're in the public right
yeah,
away.
it's
Yep.
mine to repair after a certain point.
I mean,
I'd have to-
I don't know if that really,
the
I
building
just want to
inspector.
get it out, is that, how many units is going into this? 4, so possibly 4 times 4 people, is probably 16 more people, more than that. That corner is horrible.
Well, so they're
How are we developing these
replacing,
areas that are right next to, like, dangerous corners and walkways and
they're replacing the entire sidewalk.
And
all the
adding-
way to Chestnut?
No, within their lot line, Jim. And the unfortunate thing is that, yes, there will be a very nice new sidewalk here in this instance, but the city eventually will have to catch up with sidewalk repair as part of
It's
the
also not that,
planned
I mean, I walk my
program.
dog past there all the time, it's not so bad, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly worth observing and talking about. It's somewhat outside the purview of this application, but, you know, you'll have nice new sidewalks up against old city sidewalks that at some point will be replaced.
And then if the neighboring property comes along, then that's something the plan, you know, then that's something often that the planning board considers there of like, can you connect? And that's when we talk about context. It's not a perfect system, I understand.
It's a broken system. It feels like the street got fixed, and then I think this was the point when they were trying to charge people to pay for their own sidewalks, and so they never did sidewalks there. So now we're just requiring you all to build our sidewalks for us. I'm going on a tangent. I'm out. I'm just, there's an issue here for young families who want to access this new development.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we do have the benefit of the city attorney. Do you want to walk through the updates to the resolution so that we can?
Yeah, when she gets ready. Hi. Yeah, you may have heard us calling your name.
We're on 14 North Cedar.
We couldn't figure out what to do next now. Well, we skipped one because we were waiting for you, but yeah. So we just as far as a specific aspect, the height of a lighting element, we want to make sure that we, based on our engineer's recommendation and some really good observations by planning board members, we want to make sure that we capture the lowering of that lighting element to an exact height.
An exact height?
Yeah.
Have you specified an exact height?
We have. I think it was 3'6".
3.5 feet to 4 feet was what the applicant
That's not
said, but
exact.
You guys said 3.5 feet.
3.5 feet, okay. Yeah, so we
I
just
heard
want to make
3.
sure.
I did. I
All right,
heard
let's go
5 feet,
2.
and then I heard
2
3
feet.
feet, and now we're at
Did you
4.5
want,
feet.
did you want 3 for people in the wheelchair? I'm trying to remember what your, is that, do you have, can you share with us, or
You know-
can our engineer share with us a recommendation?
I mean, I think you need to consider those things. You know,
Yeah, well-
there should be a lighting professional on the job that determines the glare and the direction and the spreads of all of this stuff. And I apologize, but it shouldn't be in the engineering purview. It should be in like an architectural level on the lighting side purview.
Yeah,
To
it has to,
consider
it'll have
these
to meet
things
the lighting
both for
requirements.
levels,
It can't
IAS
spill over.
guidelines,
Yep.
codes.
Yeah, it cannot
and
spill
such.
over.
Great.
And there was another request by the chairman that the plans be noted or referenced that the elevations are the building that's to be constructed, not the rendering. So
Well,
the
we're going to remove the rendering.
We're going to move the rendering to a different sheet, but the
Yeah,
elevations.
the note is going to say, what's represented here is exactly what we're going to build. Please.
It'll say something to that effect, yes.
The elevations are controlled.
Yes.
And we also talked about a diversity or a breakup of the types of trees that would be developed along the streetscape, I believe, between the flowering dogwoods and the.
Some kind of shade
right, the
tree,
red
if
maples.
permitted with there are overhead wires along cedars, as pointed out by Karen.
So to balance, not interfering with the wires, but also just for a diversity of plantings.
And that, Natalie, was one of the comments in your memo, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so
As per
one of the conditions of the
planners.
resolution is,
Yep.
yeah,
And there is a,
satisfaction of the comments in the planner's memo and the city engineer's memo, so.
there is a comment in the city engineer's memo on the height of the bollards, but it doesn't specify
Specific height.
the revised height.
But we have specified 3.5 feet.
Boy, we're getting exact here. I love it. Okay. So with that, I'll accept a motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
Motion to adopt by Len.
Motion by Len,
Second.
second by James. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda,
We are cooking with gas.
right? We're all the way up to number 5. Continue review of application for site plan approval, residential, convert existing single-family,
Do we want to go
single.
back to the one we skipped?
Oh, we could go back. You want to go back to 300?
We could finish, this
Or
is
there,
a,
I'm sorry,
this is a reso one, so maybe we
291?
finish the resolution ones and then go to 291?
That's fine with me, too. Yeah, let's just keep cooking, because
Cooking. Yeah, man.
we got a good pace, and we got a
Don't slow it.
couple of...
Cooking.
Yeah, so we're going to stay on 6 Cliff Street. Existing single-family residence and two-family residence, 6 Cliff.
For the record, Taylor Palmer with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the applicant. Tonight, I am joined by our project architect, R.A. Siegel, as well as our project engineer, Mike Bodendorf, and my colleague, Jessica Zalin. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we're here to respectfully request that the planning board consider approving the application for site plan approval submitted by the applicant, proposing to convert the existing single-family dwelling at 6 Cliff Street to a two-family dwelling. We have had a chance to review the city attorney's draft resolution that's before you, and provided, again, limited typographical comments, nothing of material changes, and for the board's consideration. We also understand that the city's planning and engineering consultants have reviewed the application, including our August 26th submission, and that they have provided letters indicating that all comments have been addressed.
Thank you. Actually, you've got a refuse enclosure element here on this. It's called the city bin. Is it the same thing you're proposing for the other one? Just curious.
The answer is yes.
Okay. Just popped up. I figured I'd mention it. Yeah, right there. Okay. Let's go to our planner first. Natalie?
Taylor already took my part. All previous planning comments have been addressed.
Wow, great.
Got me too. I got no comments.
Good stuff. Board? I'll accept a motion to adopt resolution as amended.
Motion to adopt resolution as amended by Len.
Motion by Len,
Second.
second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Or now it's dealer's choice.
Okay. We're going to move on then to next item on the agenda, 45 Beekman. So this is continued review of applications for subdivision approval and site plan approval, mixed-use commercial and residential, 45 Beekman Street, High Street and High Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Taylor Palmer with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the applicant. Tonight I'm joined by my colleagues Jessica Zalen, as well as our project architect, R.A. Siegel, and our civil engineer, Justin Dates of Colliers Engineering. Our traffic consultant on the project is Rich DeAndre of Colliers as well. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, tonight we are before you in connection with our site plan and subdivision applications, which we're seeking approval for, in connection with the applicant's proposal to redevelop the property for 2 4-story mixed-use commercial and multifamily residential buildings to be located at 45 Beekman and High Street. As the board is aware, at the July 8th meeting, the planning board closed the subdivision and site plan public hearings for the project and authorized the planning board attorney to draft an approval resolution for consideration at your August meeting. At the August meeting date, the applicants did provide the board with a brief description of the minor project updates, but we didn't request the board to move forward at that time as we only had 4 members present for consideration of the resolution. Seeing as we have the benefit of a fuller contingent without Mr. Randall here of the board, we are requesting that the board consider conditionally approving the project and or potential straw poll regarding same. To assist the board in completing your review of the project, on August 26th, we did submit a further revised site plan and architectural plan sets that did include written memoranda in response to comments to the board's consultants. As we detailed in those responses, the site plan set included minor grading and drainage updates, and the architectural plan set included dimensional notations showing the project's conformance with the height requirements. The architectural plans also included minor revisions to the High Street elevations to accurately reflect the surrounding grades. Lastly, in further support of the project, as we did briefly discuss at the August 12th meeting, the latest supplemental submission included correspondence from the New York State DOT, and that was dated August 6th regarding the application. This correspondence from the DOT regional office indicated that it has completed their review of the applicant's request to purchase surplus property along Beekman Street, and that the lands can be released for purchase by the applicant. I think they've already been through even the appraisal pieces, so it's really, I mean, a matter of moments at this time on that aspect. So with that, we are certainly pleased to address any other comments you all may have, or to go through any of the site plan details.
Did you mention you think you need a straw poll?
I don't necessarily defer to the board on how it wants to proceed, but
just curious. I thought I heard you say that.
Maybe getting ahead of myself on a different matter.
Natalie, any highlights you want to share with us?
I know it sounds like I have no comments, but I feel like a lot of these have been around for multiple months.
This I think more than a year.
Yeah, since as
2
long
years.
as I've been here, and I've been with you guys for almost 2 full years.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, goodness.
I know.
Time flies.
So the one remaining comment was just kind of leaving, I think what Taylor was addressing at the end is there are some important of the pedestrian improvements within the portion of the DOT right-of-way that's still going to be retained by DOT. So although a portion of it will be sold, there's kind of a connection to 9D, the sculpture area and stuff like that that's in. So just noting that that should be kind of in the resolution that those should be required and that they'll have to receive an occupancy
Use and occupancy, yep.
permit from DOT to implement those.
Part of the conditions.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
And I'll just note that is in the resolution, so the second condition of all of our resolutions requires all outside agency approvals to be obtained.
Yep.
And we added, including, we specifically mentioned in this one, the use and occupancy permit, or any, similar form of authorization that DOT deems, appropriate in this instance regarding the sidewalk and any other improvements in that area.
Nicely worded. Great.
The applicant will be required to enter in a stormwater maintenance agreement with the city of Beacon. Additionally, they provided a updated detail to address the comment for sheet 4 of 19, number 1 on our comment letter. And beyond that, I believe the applicant should just discuss negotiations with the owner of 7 Tompkins Avenue on relocation of their sewer and where they stand.
Sure. So we did note that there is a condition in the resolution that addresses, which we've suggested some changes to, and I know the city attorney can speak to those, but the applicant has been contacted on Friday of last week, 2 months after the close of the public hearing, to discuss that item, but in our submission to you all, we included 2 means of solving or resolving any connection question. So our proposal is a pump station that would bring it out to, I always say Conklin, but Tompkins, and it would bring it out that way. Alternatively, as we've shown on the plan, we've indicated these on the plans so that, to the chairman's point in the prior application, it's on the plans and there's no sort of deviating from same. There's also an alternative for an easement operation, which would just send a line through the property. So there are 2 proposals. The applicant is proposing the pump station as its primary consideration, but it's a private agreement between the private parties. But we have submitted a plan that would
address both.
Address either one or the other. And just for whatever it's worth, the applicant is proposing to do, at their expense, the more expensive proposal.
Thank you.
And I'll just mention, Chairman, so the original resolution had the conditions related to the relocation of that sewer line, including a performance guarantee, making sure that there's a license agreement or easement in place for any work that's going to occur on 7 Tompkins. That was in the section of the resolution to be required before you sign the plans.
Okay.
Because now the plans include both options, instead of just one versus the other, I'm comfortable moving that and have moved it for your consideration to be prior to the issuance of a building permit instead of prior to you signing.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
But it's still before any work is authorized anywhere, the applicant will have to sort that out.
Yep. Great, thank you. Okay, board, any other comments or questions of either our consultants or the applicant?
I've been away for a couple of months, and I just have to say I'm so happy to see that the clock face has been removed from the tower.
Looking at that.
So is the applicant, by the
Thank
way.
you.
What is it?
Yeah.
though?
Thank you.
What's behind that?
How are we going to know what time it is?
Is that like a, what? I can't even, sorry.
It'll be in your glasses soon, although,
It's like tic-tac-toe.
for some of them.
That's fine. I'll take it.
Anything else, board?
I have one question, and just want to make sure that I'm interpreting the elevations correctly, because it's a little tricky from the elevations, because on the Beacon Street building, you're not looking at a right angle on the way the walls are set up, but it appears from the renderings and from the elevations that the 4th floor, glass partition wall has been pulled back from the 3rd floor cornice a bit, right? Like when you look at the renderings, because I think we had a comment on that previously, asking that when you're viewing the back side of the building, that the 4th floor be pulled back a little bit from the cornice edge, which it looks like it has been from the renderings. When you look at the elevations, it's just tricky to discern because the walls are not right angled.
Right.
But can you just confirm, it appears that
Yeah,
the 4th floor has been stepped back a little bit from the back of the building.
yeah, it has, yeah. 'Cause we talked about that, and we were able to find a way to push it back a little bit.
Thank you.
So that'll happen. Yeah.
Okay. We do have draft resolution. Any amendments?
There was the one that I just mentioned,
Yep.
removing that condition related to the sewer from prior to signature, prior to building permit.
Got it.
And then a couple typographical, non-substantive edits in the whereas clauses.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to adopt resolution.
Motion.
Motion by Karen,
Seconded by Len.
second by Len. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Do you want to go back to, let's see. Yeah, why don't we go back to the 291 Main. So we've got continued review of application for site plan approval, mixed-use commercial and residential, 291 Main Street, submitted by Telephone Building Beacon.
Good evening,
You're on.
Mr. Chairman. For the record, Taylor Palmer with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader on behalf of the applicant. Tonight, I'm joined by my colleague Jessica Zalen, as well as the project architect R.A. Siegel, and the project engineer Mike Bodendorf of Hudson Land Design. We're also joined by our cultural and historic preservation specialist, Beth Selig of Hudson Cultural. For the benefit of the folks that we missed back in August, just to bring you all full circle on the application. At the August meeting, the planning board did close the public hearing on this application, which, as you, Mr. Chairman, you noted, is for our proposal to construct a 2-story and partial 3-story mixed-use addition to the telephone building, along with associated site improvements. To bring everyone onto the same page, some of this will sound familiar to my colleagues on the right side of the chairman, but let me do a brief review of our presentation from the last meeting, from last month, and then some additional details that we did incorporate responsive to the comments from my colleagues on the right of the chairman from the last meeting. For efficiency, I am going to steal all of RA's talking points again, and then turn it over to Beth for some additional points related to the preservation and prominence of the telephone building by emphasizing those character-defining features. As you'll recall, during our July meeting, we had a brief stroll down Main Street. And tonight, we're going to visualize that again with full renderings looking at the telephone building and the addition that's stepped back and subservient to same. As part of this submission, we did include at the request of the board fuller and full-size renderings to help sort of better displace it, and rather than having it the smaller cut sheets. We did provide the fuller sizes on there. So for this purpose, that's best seen from the corner of Main Street and South Brett, where there are no changes to this building, but for the new uplighting of the cornice, which we discussed at the last meeting. And in a meeting, RA's got that now on both, so we are now showing a nighttime view of that as well. As we discussed, the makeup of the neighborhood really starts with South Walnut, or if you want to bring up the sort of diagonal, where you head towards Main Street. There you're passing the Alps Chocolate Factory and the Chinese restaurant before the entrance to the car wash and the area storing the U-Hauls across the street from the Key Food, Crispy Crunch Chicken, and now Careful MD. They're mostly 1-story buildings, and 2-story buildings are required in this section of town. You then pass the 1-story addition of the building with Finders Keepers, Smokers Mecca, and then Beacon Fade, Shave and Barbershop, and then the convenience store before we come full circle to the blue pole and the mural painted across from AMA across the 3-story telephone building. So RA, bring it up to show us looking at AMA, please. Yep. So we now have renderings that, as well as an infill analysis that details the relationship between the existing historic building and the proposed addition, which are consistent with and or better than some other additions in infill development along Main Street within the CMS and HGLO districts. We try to think back to 151, which is the Inn and Spa at Beacon. We talk about 416 Main Street, which is now the Wild, and the other mixed uses, which is also on tonight's agenda to talk about the park, and then the 536 Main Street, all commercial use next door to now existing historic buildings. With that backdrop, as more detail in our submissions to you dated July 29th and August 26th, we think it's important to emphasize where this project started and how significantly is scaled back to the maximum extent feasible, which is the criteria in your code. For instance, the overall footprint of the addition, Aria, if you find the comparison plan for me, that'd be helpful. For instance, the overall footprint of the addition has been further reduced, and its design has been altered to an abbreviated L shape, such that the addition is stepped back even further from Main Street by an additional foot beyond what you all saw in July, and that steps it back and from the Brett Street frontages of the property. In addition, as was discussed with the board, the linear LED lighting has been added along the lower cornice of the telephone building, and that's intended to provide a soft glow to highlight the profile of the historic cornice on this existing structure. Finally, a portion of the previously proposed cornice to the addition has been replaced with a glass eave skylight at the connection between the telephone building and the addition, which provides visual separation and softens that transition between the telephone building and the addition, and it enhances the visibility of the telephone building's brick facade. These refinements ensure that the addition is complementary to and does not interfere with the experience of the historic telephone building that is fully exposed on 3 sides. And in fact, the historic features of the existing building are being celebrated through this project design. The applicant has also expanded landscape areas at the southern portion of the property, increasing the proposed landscape areas to between 11% of the property. An updated detailed planting list has also been provided with the submission, which includes an additional tree and 53 additional shrubs within the proposed landscape areas. Since we last appeared, 2 new flowering dogwood trees have been proposed along the South Brett street frontage on the property. In addition, the existing street tree on Main Street, which is currently in poor condition, I understand, is proposed to be replaced with an additional new flowering dogwood that would also give more eyes on the front of the building there along Main Street.
Wait, you're saying that mature tree that's in front of the building right now is in poor condition?
That's what I'm told. I don't speak tree. I'm just speaking what I'm told.
It looks pretty robust to me.
If the board wants that tree to stay, the tree will stay. But the applicant is proposing to remove it based on feedback, trying to get a better sense or view of the telephone building on its frontage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an arborist either, but it looks like a healthy tree. And
I'll look to the landscape, professionals on this. We can get more information on it, but I think the intent there was just to try and, give a little bit more visibility on the building, and effectively, one of the things that's blocking its presence or its.
Well, it does obscure quite a bit of the cornice, but I wouldn't say that's a reason to knock down a healthy tree.
Again, I'll leave it at that. That's for the board's consideration. We can certainly remove that with efficiency from the plan. With that, we did revise some additional lighting details on the plan to resolve the perceived glare bomb. Still get that one. In prior versions of the lighting plan that was submitted to you all, and the proposed snow storage location has been clarified. A luminaire schedule was also added to the plans. The 2 bike racks have been relocated from Main Street frontage to between the 2 street trees on the South Brett frontage on the property. And as noted, the renderings of the project have been incorporated in the plans, so we have the larger pieces showcasing its compliance with the design standards. I believe that's also noted, to steal Natalie's talking points, in the city planner's most recent comment memo, which confirms the project meets the codified criteria, or her professional opinion that it meets the codified criteria. With that, I am going to ask Beth, though, to speak, so for the members that were not able to attend, about how this project does comply with those architectural and design standards for properties located in the CMS, as well as the Secretary of Interior's standards on historic properties. And of course, we can walk you through any details on that infill analysis that we submitted as well, as the board sees fit.
Hello, good evening. For the record, Beth Seelig, Hudson Cultural Services. I am going to be as brief as possible because I did submit a memo, and then I did speak to a number of you about the same topics last week. So not to just sort of repeat myself, but at the July meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion amongst the board on 3 specific points from the HDLO section, 134.7A, 134.7B1 and B2, and I'm just going to very briefly revisit those specific points since there was a great deal of discussion. And then based on the revisions for the plans that you now see before you. The addition has been pulled, the design of the addition has been pulled from the surrounding buildings and the similar properties within the streetscape. The brick tone is sufficiently differentiated in color to highlight the fact that it's not part of the historic building, but it also ties in terms of the patterning of the car wash that's next door. The size of the storefront on the addition ground level, it ties into the stylistic front portion of the car wash, but as well as that of the convenience store that's a bit further up the street. So those additional elements are correlated in the addition, and those buildings were inspiration for some of those design elements. The setback on the addition was brought back to a total of 10 feet, as shown on the design plan, so it's a good distance off the sidewalk. The rear portion of the building has been reduced, which increases the rear view of the telephone building. So when you're looking at the building from South Brett Street, coming up the street towards Main, it's much more visible, and the addition is much more subservient from that angle, which increases the visual prominence of the telephone building, and it doesn't detract from any of those exposed historic characteristics. As part of the new design, there is a skylight eave between the addition and the original telephone building. So if you're standing in front of the building, you can see that cornice line all the way up. That skylight eave also highlights that brick wall where the addition will be flush against it. And it will also help further prevent that original exterior wall from being obscured or damaged in any way. The goal of this is to reduce the impacts to the historic characteristics of the telephone building to the maximum extent possible. When this project, kind of piggyback off what Taylor was saying, when the project first came before you, it was a very large 3-story building, which did overwhelm the telephone building. It was much higher. That has been substantially reduced. The lighting has been proposed on the cornice line, which further highlights and accentuates that very important architectural detail. With the addition of that skylight eave that I mentioned, if you are in that storefront and you are inside the interior, you can look up through that skylight and see part of the cornice and see that exposed brick wall, which I think is a very cool feature to help accentuate and highlight the telephone building. From the original plan that came before you months ago, the overall reduction in size and the diminished size, especially in the rear, does seem to help celebrate the historic building, highlighting it and sort of bringing it up into prominence a little bit. And that was my brief recap. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Okay, anything else at the moment? Okay, we'll go to Natalie, please.
Yeah. So focusing on the sidewalk and the edge along South Brett, I think we've had a lot of conversation. My first comment is about, there's a lot of language within the CMS district about street amenities, street trees, benches, bike parking. And so I do appreciate that the 2 street trees, we've gone back and forth between planters up against the building versus street trees. I think in the last version, the street trees were removed. I think in their own right, the addition of street trees are supported by the code and supportable from a planning perspective. I guess what I'm trying to understand there is ensuring that we still have enough kind of pedestrian clearway. So I was trying to understand dimensions with the trees, with the sidewalk. It appears, I don't know if you can maybe go to that portion of the site plan so we can kind of look at what we're talking about. But it appears that for like pedestrians walking on this area that they'd have to kind of walk onto the property, which is a historic condition that I think has happened for a number of years. So I just wanted to talk more about like, what are the dimensions of clear space to get around? 8 is required by the code, but there is language in the code allowing the planning board to accept less than 8 feet if there's reasoning for that, right? Historic building that you can't move, things like that. So I kind of want to understand the widths there better. And then I guess one of my recommendations was, can you rotate the bike parking so that it's parallel to the road, so bikes aren't parked kind of blocking the sidewalk, but maybe rotated the other way, which may be the intent. It wasn't super clear from that. Yeah, so I think it was that. I'm just trying to make sure that it'll be a clear way. And then I guess the question's for Jennifer. If now, because of the placement of street trees, pedestrians would have to kind of walk onto the private property, which does, to anyone walking there, look like the sidewalk. I don't think people would know they're necessarily on, but is there some kind of agreement that has to be in place to ensure that that pedestrian clearway can remain?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd want to put a note on the plan to indicate that, the applicant is granting basically a license or easement to the public for that pedestrian purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the addition of the street trees are in their own right good. I'm just trying to make sure we're not creating issues with the additions of those, right?
Yeah, and I just want to add that we're proposing tree grates, so those can be walked on, and they're ADA accessible. We're looking at different options. Right now, they're shown as 4x4 grates. Okay. I want to see if we can get something that's a little bit narrower relative to the building and the curb. But to the center line of the tree, we have between 6.5 and 7 feet to the building. And I provided some examples of previously approved projects on side streets that have similar clearway distances to obstructions, bike racks, so forth.
Okay, so the grates will be, flush?
Yeah, they'll be flush and ADA compliant.
Okay.
And I can provide a detail on the plan.
Okay.
In addition to that point, I would
Yeah,
say I would
we'll certainly adjust the bike rack.
I would reconsider the type of tree that you're planting there, something that can be limbed up so you could walk under. The canopy of the dogwood is typically fairly low. The existing tree that's in front of the building looks like it's a honey locust, and, you know, you might want to consider something that, like, you know, is more upright and vase-shaped as opposed to low branching, because I would recommend that you put in something with a large caliper that you can already limb up so that people can pass underneath that canopy.
Okay, sure.
It'll just help with access.
Yeah. My second comment was in regards to, we spent a lot of time talking through the CMS and the HGLO design standards. From kind of numerical, I am not a historic preservation specialist, but I just kind of went one more time through that section of the code, through the materials that were provided by the applicant's consultant. And we've discussed this before, that there is definitely discretion there for the board to talk about how these things apply, but I did not see anything directly in conflict with those regulations, and then just kind of put it to the board to determine whether they concur with that assessment. And then the lighting plan, I just had there's a few notes that they're requirements of the code, and it's not clear if they've been met. I know that you guys are seeking the overall foot candle levels from the site, so in absence of that, since that's not provided, there could be a note placed on the plan that the overall average site lighting cannot exceed 1 foot candle, which is required by the code. Just a question for the applicant, whether any timers, dimmers, we're now doing some lighting, architectural lighting on the building as well as the site, so is there intent, what are the hours of operation, intent for those? CRI is specified for one of the fixtures but not the other, so there's a requirement that they have to be between the range of 80 and 100. And, oh yeah, I just wanted to, if we could talk more, since the cornice lighting, I think, is a newer addition, so maybe if we could talk a little bit more about that, making sure that it's fully kind of concealed. Maybe I might have missed specs or something on that, but I just...
No, thanks for bringing that up,
Yeah.
because it's a serious concern.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just kind of showed as a dotted line, right? But where you have that dotted line is something that can't hold a linear fixture, or at least conceal it. So major concerns of ours was what that cornice, right? How it's going to be presented, and right now, you're about to put a rope light up there, right? And just turn it on, it's going to be a mess. If you're going to conceal it, you're going to have to do some kind of construction to that cornice. What is that construction? What is the historical take on that construction? Right? How are you going to punch through the building for the remote drivers? Right? All that detail needs to happen. We can't just have a dotted line on probably the most historical portion of the building.
I think, again, our intention is to incorporate something that does highlight and celebrate it, so I think we can do just that. I don't think the intention was certainly to just do, slap something on, so.
No, totally understand, and I really celebrate the idea that you're doing that, and I love the fact that you're doing that, because it'll be beautiful at night, right? But without deep planning, that will fail, and then it'll be an eyesore.
We'll put something in the supplementals in our submission to address specifically that and the timer, because I think kind of go hand in hand. I know they're different issues, but I think we'll have REA make sure to look at that with the right lighting designer to make sure that that meets also that in the historical context with Beth, to make sure those two marriages come, or whatever, two parties come together in a good marriage.
Thank you for saying that, because that is the time to hire a lighting professional. It can't be left to engineering.
Did that cover your comments?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry to jump in on that.
No, I appreciate it.
And just one note on the trees, before, I know that I like the
H.
vase shape, and that's in my head. We are going to try and keep something also somewhat low, not too tall, because again, trying not to obscure the building, right? One of the visual, sight line into the building. So not too tall, but not too.
Yeah, if you want to keep the cornice visible, you got to strike a balance. You got to be able to walk under it, and then
exactly right.
Can't grow too big. Again, back to the existing honey locust. yes, it's obscuring the cornice, but it's a healthy, vibrant, happy tree. I do not advocate taking down,
Fine.
even though, and honey locusts aren't my favorite trees, unless there's some, disease that, you can get a doctor's note for. I just don't advocate for cutting down a tree just for the heck of it, just because there's a cornice there that you want to look at.
That's not the reason. There's something going on with the tree where it's kind of growing into the building, and it's been a maintenance issue that the applicant has been dealing with. So, we can see if there's someone who could.
You can trim a tree.
Yeah, apparently there's like a problem with how it's interfering with the existing building.
How? Yeah, no, I get it.
It's growing towards it, but we'll see if we can get a doctor's note.
I think the effect is, we'll look at what can be done. If the board's preference is that it remain, then we'll have to look at a way to preserve it to the extent we can't. But to the extent we can, should something happen to it, it'd be good to know what the board's, again, not from the applicant, but nature or otherwise.
Should something happen to it? What, something gonna come along and whack it one day?
Again, remember, we've talked about in prior applications, the old, brutalist
easy.
planters that used to be out on Main Street.
If the tree is healthy, leave it alone. If it's just the fact that it's big enough now, then it's scraping up against the building, maintain the damn tree. Don't cut it down.
Root structure or the branches?
The root structure. What you say, the root structure? All right, we'll look into it, but we were offering it as an option because, again, a lot of the conversation at that time was about, the presence of this new construction and the reality of what this tree in its prominence does, which is obstruct the cornice and the building itself. So, again, sorry for bringing it up.
I don't know. It's about priorities,
Too far.
right?
Yep.
Look, it's a part of nature. It's a mature tree.
Tree stays if it can.
It offers, some nice shade relief. If there's nothing wrong with it.
Perfect.
If it's not sick.
It will remain.
There's very few shade trees on that block, on that side of the
Leave it.
street, so I would encourage you to keep it.
Understood.
Thank you for backing me up. Awesome. Any other engineering comments you want to discuss?
Nope, we reviewed the cost estimate that was provided, found it acceptable, and we don't have any other comments.
Thank you. Okay, board.
Yes, along the south property line at the parking lot, I have been suggesting that you need some screening. So there has been no change to the planting plan in that regard. I would encourage you to reconsider that to help your neighbor out.
You mean, just for point of information, so we did reduce the overall scale, so we have a whole landscaped area now behind the building where that was building before?
No, along the parking lot.
So just along that back south line?
Yeah, the
So
south property
enhance
line.
that planting, okay.
Just something like, right,
Yep.
what's in the planting plan right now is a ground cover. So something that would provide, I know that the space is limited. There are some options.
Okay.
It also seems like your property line, there's a fence that the neighbor has. There's a little bit of space, so you might want to talk, that will, help you put in something that would provide your neighbor with some screening of the parking lot. So it might entail a conversation with them. I do agree that the idea of lighting the cornice at night sounds nice. I think that in the rendering, it does look super soft. In reality, I find that it's very rarely executed like that. And I would also be concerned about, if it's on all night, is it the windows of the apartments, is it shining into the windows of the apartments? Because it's uplighting, right? It's not.
It's uplighting. It's
Yeah.
it's probably similar to the town crier, which has the same thing, it stays on all night. If you drive by that tonight.
Right, but that is much lower, and it's not shining into someone's apartment windows.
What apartment?
It goes around the whole cornice, doesn't it?
Yeah, but up.
Right, but there's apartments on the third floor in the back of this
the
building.
addition.
Well, the cornice doesn't carry around the back.
Oh, yeah, stop it.
The cornice is only on the 3 sides.
Yeah, boom, 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 in the back.
But we're mindful of that. The applicant understands that and would not want to have I think of the Seinfeld episode, right? The chicken store.
But I think the softness is a point too, in
Yeah.
terms of like glare.
It's got to be
and-
super, and the,
Yeah.
and the color,
Yep.
the temperature
Yeah.
needs to be very soft.
You need a professional.
3,000 K.
I'd say 27.
27.
Yeah, you want to go warmer?
Yeah.
I'm,
Even that's
yeah,
Soft white.
I'm a little bit queasy about the idea of having to add some
Yeah, I wouldn't
element to
wanna
the
add-
freeze
right.
board to conceal it. I mean, I like, I appreciate the
I don't
intention
think
of
the
wanting to
cornice.
highlight the cornice, but
Yeah, I don't think
kinda
it should
like-
be altered in order to light it.
Right. Makes sense.
And then on the rendering, the glass that connects the new building to the existing building at the top, can you talk us through what's happening there?
Yeah, I'll have Ari come up because Len brought up the same question at the last meeting, so we'll talk to that now.
It's nice not touching any of the 2 buildings on top.
So you mean at the glass connector where it turns into?
in the rendering,
Yeah.
it just is not resolved. There's like a little frame, it's just.
The glass just kind of, at least it appears as though the
top
glass
looks
just
like
kind of
it's-
stops.
Yeah, it,
I mean, basically what happens is, there's like a pretty complete glass corner there.
okay.
And it's a product, so, the vertical part is attached to that part that would be, on the roof.
Okay.
So are you intending that as it goes back,
It remains glass on
it
top,
remains
too.
glass as part of the roof for that section? Is that
Well,
what
it's
you're
like
saying?
a skylight, so it'll pitch back towards the roof.
So
The
where,
purpose is to really get that separation from the existing building and
yeah,
the
no, I
cornice.
get
right? I mean,
it. I'm just looking at what you're showing in the rendering, and it just doesn't look complete. It looks, where you have those purlines or mullions.
Right.
I mean, maybe it
Well,
has.
that's what happens. The mullion stops, so there's not like a really strong frame there. It's pretty much a glass-to-glass
It looks painty.
connection there.
Oh, I see. That's going to be a hard detail to keep water out of.
I mean, that
not
part is
my-
a product, and then you flash it, into the rest of it, so.
Okay, good luck. That's your job, not mine, but wow.
And then that vertical portion on the second floor, is that part of the apartment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so they'll get a really nice view of the cornice. That's awesome.
Vertical, that part?
No, this is the apartment.
Okay, anything else, board?
Yes, if Karen is finished, I have a question about the alternate north elevation.
One
But-
more
No,
little
keep
detail.
going. Yeah, keep going.
Sorry.
There's mechanical.
You just might want to think about what shading, like if it's a rental and someone puts up their own shades, it could look really atrocious, so you might want to control that portion of the design.
Oh, anywhere in that glass
Glass
part.
area.
Yeah.
No vertical blinds.
And that there's
That's a really good point.
some cohesion between the windows adjacent to it in that
Yeah.
apartment.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, I'm done.
Len?
Thank you. On that alternate north elevation where you explored the symmetrical piers, why did you choose to make them both relatively thick? In the proposed north elevation, the western pier is very slender. I'm sorry, opposite. Eastern pier is very slender, western pier is relatively thick. When you looked at a symmetrical option, you chose to do 2 thick piers. Why not? And I think in your comment letter, you made a comment that you didn't feel like it was pleasing, but why not tinker with the proportions a little further in order to make it a little more pleasing?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at that, but the concept behind the design was that end pier on the, the furthest west would relate more to the existing building proportions, and then, so we didn't want to, make both of them skinny. And basically, the idea was that, that one should be like a termination point to that side of the building. But as it kind of draws away from the telephone building, there's a thinner one, and then the connection, next to it But, you know, it's sort of like a dynamic composition.
I totally understand that. And that I think that, because my initial reaction looking at the rendering was, why is it like that? But looking at the elevation, I can understand that approach, which you just described, and what you're recommending in terms of the proposed elevation. My feeling is that if you were to give the inboard pier just maybe another brick width, because I don't mind the imbalance now looking at the elevation. I just think that the inner pier is just still too de minimis.
The other thing that I find kind of jarring when I look at the north elevation is that the fenestration of the second floor versus the third floor, there's a asymmetry on the addition. The windows are squeezed pretty close together, and then on the third floor, there's two windows that are way outboard.
I was thinking about that. I don't
with
think
a
you're
big
gonna
brick
read
space
that.
between them.
I don't think you're even gonna see them.
But it's odd, because that third floor space where those two windows are, that's letting into stairwell, what's behind that?
The upper.
If you go to the third floor.
Front elevation, upper windows.
Yeah, above the, or if you
yeah,
pull up the
it's
elevation
so
drawing.
set back. I hard area these guys.
One of those is a door, I believe, right, to walk out onto the...
Oh, they're showing on the elevation like they're two they look like windows on the elevation drawing, the proposed north elevation.
Yeah, they're drawn as
Right,
windows.
yeah, you mean the ones that are set way back? Yeah.
They're so far back you're not
What are
gonna
those-
see them.
Yeah, one's a door, the other is a window, but they're set so far back you'd never see them from the street.
15 feet.
I will say, you didn't draw one of them as a door?
Right, they both seem to be windows, but I guess that you can see that there's a railing.
On the floor plans, you can
Yeah,
see
it's just-
sheet 3, if you go to the set, you can see on the third floor plan.
It's set back nearly 30 feet.
Oh, yeah, it's 37.
That was a good guess.
Good job.
Okay. Anything else, board?
I got one more.
Shoot.
Please. Just going back to the lighting of the cornice. Ra, it might be, like if you abandon the two sides, I think you have a really hard time doing linear around this thing, because it's just going to be pretty violent to make it happen. If the idea of the cornice being lit is pretty great, but maybe if we just concentrate on the front facade. If you think about either maybe the 4 lights that are there, which is in an up and a down position, you might be able to re-specify those light fixtures in order to control the uplight component more, in order to drive it further up and hit that cornice. Or you might be able to do a secondary row higher up on the building that concentrates on completing the line of the front of the elevation, and then also carries through the cornice as well.
Instead of the...
Yeah, instead of the linear and trying to get all that to work, because again, it's going to be pretty violent on the building to make that happen, and punch-throughs and coordination. You might be able to mess with the positions as they are and change that spec of that fixture, right, and do it all just from those 4 locations, or even look at what it might be with a couple mock-ups to add a secondary row above it. You just have to look in and see if it appeals to you to have that many fixtures on the front of the building and what that would look like. But it could be an easy way to kind of meet everybody's requirements, not to mess with that cornice, but to still get a little bit of soft light up there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the first idea to modify, the spec of that fixture that's there probably makes more sense of it.
Very low cost and impact, right? You just change that fixture out, and there's a ton of them on the market that allow you to separate the beam spread of the bottom from the top.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and the cornice projects pretty far, so.
Right,
we're
and if
not
you keep
gonna
it
have
tight
that.
enough, you could get between those windows, and you could still have some kind of, you have to mock it up though, but it is something to consider.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, if I could.
Yep.
I just want to say that I feel like the effort that's been put into this it's been a lot of effort. But one of the things that it shows to me is that the impossibility of adding on that slot and not diminishing the physical presence of this building and its intended and its design intent when it was first built, and the strength of it as a as a landmark on Main Street. So I feel like all the effort that's being put into like lighting up, it's a little garish, I think, to light up the cornice, and all of the different iterations of ways of trying to model something that fills in that space that should be open, right, are awkward and none of them meet, none of them reinforce the positive qualities of the building that it contributes to the city. So that's one thing. And I think that there's multiple other ways that could have been, that the applicant could improve or get additional value out of this property without diminishing what is, I think, the critical aspect of it. So I just don't think that it's really progressed very far.
Anything else?
I don't really think my views on this have changed since the last meeting. I mean, there's no, I appreciate the plans have changed and reduced in scope. That's great, but there's no proposal we've seen that doesn't involve substantially obstructing this cornice from the street level, which is really the largest defining feature of this. You can see it through the skylight. Great. I don't really think that it's possible to come up with a proposal doing exactly what they're trying to do that's not going to obstruct that cornice.
Okay. Okay.
From the one side.
So,
Yep.
board, we can talk about next steps in terms of authorizing our attorney to draft resolution. You want to talk about that?
Don't all talk at once.
Yeah,
right?
really. We'll jump at once. Let's just maybe think about a straw poll and where we're at with that. So before actual vote, for authorizing draft, Jim, how would you vote?
I vote yeah.
Karen?
Yeah.
I vote yes. Glenn?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
Okay. So we have to, one, think about if this is the direction it's going to go, and it's on those of you who would vote no, to make sure that the argument for no is super clear as it relates to all the reasons why. Needs to be tight. Number two, I think we should think about authorizing the city to obtain their own consultant to review the historic aspects of this relative to the code, because I think that's an important component to an airtight argument. So let's talk about that.
I am trying to be helpful here, whether you realize it or not. Does the applicant want us to get a consultant?
Well, I think you also are missing the benefit of a planning board member as well.
That's not the
That's
question.
also true. No, but
It is
it,
my recommendation that if you are leaning towards a no vote, that you do seek
We will appeal
the
a
advice
determination that's
of
not
an
favorable.
expert.
So we're trying to work with the board.
Hang on.
Yeah, sorry, Jennifer, go ahead. My apologies.
Okay,
Yep, go
thank
ahead.
you. If you are leaning towards a no vote, I do recommend that you consider retaining the advice of an expert historic consultant. Similar to, the applicant has Beth Seelig.
I have a thought on that. Can we also get, if we do get a consultant, can we get a consultant that is not just a historic building expert, but also an architect? Because I think I've got to say, one thing that it's important for me to say is that, the City of Beacon Code allows for additions to historic structures under certain constraints, right? So that means that there is an approvable project somewhere, right? And it may be right now, it's in the platonic world of the forms, you know, as far as I'm concerned. It's like there is an ideal addition that is elegantly designed and doesn't take away from the building and achieves, I think, the objectives of the property owner who would like to further develop this. But my take on it is that it needs more work on the design to avoid detracting from the telephone building. And so that's my 2 cents. Can we get somebody who is not just a historic preservationist, but also has architectural experience, who could maybe propose tweaks authoritatively, or at least express an opinion on,
If I may.
not just the, please, 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead, Len.
Not just on the protection of the resource, but also the compatibility or the aesthetic
Yeah.
principles of the addition.
I'm not sure if we want to put the city in the position of being in the business of designing something for an applicant. So that's just my take. You had something you wanted to add?
All I was going to say is this is all, again, the applicant hasn't objected to sort of any of these communications. Of course, your planning consultant did indicate that we've satisfied those criteria, and I didn't hear any discussion from the board members that are potentially voting no on the project, speaking to specific criteria. But with respect to the missing member, maybe we could ask or seek that Mr. Williams potentially be available for the October meeting and see a straw poll at that time, so to hold off on any such discussion until we have the benefit of Mr. Williams' consideration, just for further discussion. I mean, it is another member, participated in the last meeting.
Fair.
I think it's just a suggestion. Again, no objection to that. I know, just for the board's reference, you've had other consultants brought on in the past for matters, and it's taken some time. You'll recall from Prophecy that it took about 3 months before we got a sound consultant, so.
Yeah, well, so you make a good point. We're probably going to end up holding any kind of vote over until next
course.
month
Yep.
anyway. So, yes, you would benefit by a broader member of the board representation.
But let me just
At the
put
same
this out
time,
there.
yeah, go ahead.
If you're asking that we hold off on moving forward with retaining a consultant, just know that in the event Mr. Williams is not the fourth vote, that's just going to push off an inevitable decision on this.
Which is why I asked.
One more month, yeah.
And
Yeah.
said
Yeah, I
I'm
think the
trying
board
to be
could
helpful.
try and reach out.
Yeah.
There's no objection to, again, to reaching out to a consultant, but should we have the full complement, full 7-member board, which we've had a few times, then
A few times in the last 10 years.
a few times.
Yeah, I would recommend that we move forward with.
I agree.
proposals
I
and
totally agree.
retaining somebody.
So I
And
think-
if it turns out that person is not, their services are not needed,
Then we can terminate them. Yes, that's fine. So I'm gonna open it up to a vote for authorizing city to retain the services of a historic consultant, historic architectural consultant. Are there consultants already approved by the city?
For that, I don't know.
Or is this going to need a search?
I got to say,
check.
we got to have a criteria for actually doing this, whether we're establishing a subcommittee or whatever.
No, it wouldn't be a subcommittee.
Just an outside
No, it'd be an
consultant.
outside consultant to come in to review and opine specifically on the historic elements germane to this through the code relative to the historic district and those requirements, and render their, I'm not even going to use the word opinion, expert judgment on where this stands.
And
Yeah.
how it's been done in the past, David, is, we'll see proposals, and the selection is usually coordinated between the chair and Chris White, the city
Yep.
administrator.
Okay, that's what I was getting
And I
at,
was
is
just,
how do
I
we
was just
choose the
curious whether
consultant?
whether we have a body of consultants that we already pull from or draw from, or whether we're sort of starting from scratch. It's more of a timing thing, but yeah, so there's a process for this.
So about the scoping of that, of the consultant's work, I just want to make it clear that could be predetermined what their judgment is if the scope of their work is just to say whether or not it's possible for it to be compliant, right? And because the code clearly gives us the responsibility of judging the quality of the work, right? We have a qualitative.
Yes,
we have a
but-
qualitative
But
responsibility.
we're also judging the compliance as well, and that's the
Right.
matter at hand
Well,
right
there's
now.
both of these things. What I'm saying is I don't want to have it scoped so that it's limited to the.
Folks, I want to interrupt.
quantitative
I'm sorry.
compliance.
I think we were touching on some issues that are hitting attorney-client privilege, and we should probably go into executive session for a moment.
I'm fine.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Board.
Executive session?
That's fine. You'd have
Great.
to make a motion.
Motion to adjourn to executive
To
session.
discuss what particularly, just for the record?
Advice of counsel.
Okay.
On getting a consultant.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the table.
Motion.
Motion by Karen.
Second.
Second by David.
David.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, you had to stand up, didn't you? Ouchie.
You'll need a motion to come out of executive session. And just note that no decisions were made.
Yes, great. Okay, so we will, I'll accept a motion to come out of executive session.
Motion.
Motion by Karen.
Seconded.
Second by James, all in favor?
Aye.
And yes, where we left off, we did not, we were discussing the city, authorizing the city to hire a separate consultant, independent consultant, specifically for review of aspects of the historic overlay and the laws associated with it. So to that end, I'll open it to discussion or otherwise a motion to do so.
Motion.
Motion by Karen.
Second.
Second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so to that end, we'll go ahead and go through the process of obtaining a consultant to assist us with our review. And we'll discuss then next month more along those lines.
Right, and ideally a request, if possible, that Mr. Williams also potentially join, if available. I understand that anyone could be missing from the meeting, so.
I'll text him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. So we're going to move to our next item on the agenda, which is continued review of applications and site plan approval and special use permit, hotel and restaurant, 1064 Walcott Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Tonight I'm Taylor Palmer with Cutting Fader. Tonight I'm joined by our architect, R.A. Siegel, as well as our project engineer, Mike Bodendorf. We're also joined by the applicant, Mark DeFabio. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we're before you for our continued review of an application for site plan and special use permit approvals, where we're proposing to adaptively reuse the two existing buildings on the property and to install an addition connecting to install an addition connecting to the existing southern building for use as a proposed hotel and associated guest amenity spaces and an accessory restaurant. Following our discussions at our February, April, and June meetings, we did take some additional time to consider your comments and comments from the board's consultants and propose certain programmatic changes intended to reduce the overall impact of this project on the historic northern building while increasing the overall number of guest rooms, I think was a member of the board's comments. The applicant had also thoughtfully modified the project design to redefine the roof line details as well as the proposed architectural features of the building on the northern portions of the property to further emphasize the historic character of the historic building and to define the main entry point of the building in response to comments from the board. These changes were briefly reviewed during our August 12th meeting, but since we didn't have the full contingency of the board, and since our discussion was short that night, we'll review those changes as well as what's detailed in our August 26th submission, and then Ari and Mike can walk you through those programmatic changes in just a minute. So our July 29th supplemental submission was primarily focused on the visual and architectural design, and our goal is to get to the board's feedback on these project refinements. And then our most recent submission on August 26th, began to address the additional engineering details, so we started to fill out some of the other components, and additional engineering information will be provided in a supplemental submission. Once we've aligned the design concepts and hopefully get some positive feedback regarding this update and sort of changed programmatically, we'll prepare a fully updated engineering, traffic, and other supporting materials, and then we'll provide a complete supplemental submission. So I'd also like to note, just for those that weren't here last month, we did hire Deborah Adamsons for the project, and she'll be incorporating a landscape design for the project and incorporating comments that Karen and the board have mentioned in prior meetings. So before I do turn it over to REA, I will just note some of those brief program changes. As we detailed in our July 29th and August 26th, I don't know why I want to keep saying the 28th, supplemental submissions, the project has been refined to reduce the intensity of the use and the historic building on the property. As we presented in June and the August meetings, the historic north building will continue to be maintained as a separate structure in its existing position of prominence on the top of the hill there. Now, instead of being occupied by the hotel restaurant, and open to the public, the building is proposed to be occupied by 8 guest rooms only. The vision of the building is to provide a curated sort of inn-like experience for the guests staying in the structure. The proposal will also reduce the foot traffic into the structure, which helps maintain the historic features of the building over time. The proposed hotel restaurant has been relocated from the historic building to the upper floor of the existing building on the southern portion of the property. In addition to the dormer design, the dormer design and elevations to the historic building have been modified to honor its original historic character. The tower locations and height of the addition have also been adjusted for balance between the southern building and the addition, which further defines the roof line and contributes to reducing the overall perceived massing of the overall structure. Further, the second-story porch on the addition, which echoes the existing porch details on both existing buildings, has been extended to include a section facing that historic building. Finally, the hotel entry design has been modified to include a main revolving door, along with swinging doors on either side with a glass canopy over the sidewalk, extending overall entry doors to elongate and further define that entryway as a focal point for that project. So, REA, can you please come up and just sort of show the progression here?
So Taylor, covered a lot of the points that were updated in the new design. But basically, when we had that meeting to talk about the new approach with separating the north building a couple of meetings ago, you guys gave some good, specific recommendations, and we tried to incorporate those into the, this latest design. So, we understand that there's additional work to be done and detailing and stuff, but we just wanted to sort of, check in with you and see if we're still on the right track with the changes that had been recommended a couple meetings ago. But essentially, we changed the tower near the south building so it's not blocking that, connected piece as much. We changed the proportions of the other towers. We cut the porch off the second, out of the second floor of the tower near the north building. We readjusted the dormer, scale of the dormers on that north building, because there had been some changes over time to that building, and we're trying to incorporate the space that's there, but bring it back to the historic nature of that original building. We're working with Deborah to figure out what's going to happen with the landscaping and the development of that area between the buildings. We're trying to activate that as sort of an outdoor room and a place where there's landscaping and activity. The landscaping we're showing on the site plan is a placeholder for now, but she's working now on developing the actual design. Basically, we tried to respond to the comments that we got last time, and we just want to check in that we're headed in the right direction, although, we understand there's more to do.
Sure, thanks. Okay. Anything else in the moment? Okay. Good. So we'll go to KARC.
As they mentioned, this is a limited submission, but I kind of brought back all my initial comments from my letter from a few months ago, just so with the intent that if you guys are going to be proceeding into a full submission for the next meeting, you kind of have all the comments in one place. But I'll go through them quickly. So I think one of the big things that we've been talking about the most for this is there's a section in the HGLO 223-24.7 that talks about incentives for preserving historic structures, and it lists hotels as a permitted special permit use, but talks about screening adequately screening new structures from surrounding public street views. So just reminding the board and the applicant that I think we did discuss this 2 meetings ago. And so while the new, and I think where the determination came, I just want to keep track of this, is while the new construction is visible from Walcott, the board discussed at its June 2025 meeting that disconnecting the addition from the historic structure, along with incorporating appropriate lighting and landscaping design, could sufficiently screen it. It doesn't need to be not visible from Wolcott, right? So I think that was an important distinction to make. So that will be, I think we can continue that review once we get the lighting and landscaping details in the full submission. Previously requested, there is conversation about undue enlargement within the HDLO regulations. That, you know, additions and enlargements have to be appropriate and will not result in undue alterations or enlargements of the structure. So I think square footage and number is not going to be the only determining factor of that enlargement, but I think it would be helpful to have some of that comparison. So I think we have the current gross floor area of the existing building at just over 10,000 square feet, but specifying that in the floor plans and everything as we come along will help that comparison. Restoration, there's specific regulations for restoration. So I think the existing, and maintaining the existing architectural and historic integrity. So I think it looks, well, I can't tell from the renderings necessarily, but it looks like we're changing the color palette. Maybe I could, like the one at the doorway looks like a much lighter color palette where the other elevations look like a darker. So just specifying that, and I think it would be helpful to talk about how that's, they're not necessarily that the existing one is the only historic color palette that could be chosen, but I think that is part of the aspect of it. So talking about those changes, I'm sure that will come in your elevations. It would be helpful, this site is a little bit hard, that I think the biggest focus on the restoration work and modifications is obviously going to be on the more historic northern building. If you could have kind of almost existing proposed, if it's existing photos next to the proposed, I think it'll be easier for the board to kind of see proposed changes to that building. Rear yard setback, we've talked about this previously, that it, and I saw this noted in your cover letter, that right now the rear yard setback is less than required. I think it's 23.8 feet where 50 is required. So either a variance, or I know you're looking at other solutions for that. Just wanted to note that. There's a correction to the front yard setback requirement in the table. Previously requested tree removal, that I always do this when, if there's existing trees on site, if you could just specify on the demo plan what's being retained, what's being removed, because that is, there are some trees here that are providing screening of this site, so just being clear on what's being kept. Screening of the parking facilities is also specifically called out in the code. So I think the biggest area for that focus is going to be in the rear portion of the lot where you're abutting the neighboring residential properties on the eastern portion of the site and where the refuse is. So I think we'll want to focus on, you're going to be less than 20 feet from the abutting rear yards of the residential properties on Harbor Hill Court. So we'll just, I think, need to pay attention to screening and buffering there from those properties. Lighting plan, you said, is forthcoming. I think there's been changes, so we'll need an updated traffic and parking analysis.
Just on the subject of parking, just given our new code, you mentioned, Natalie, a range, a minimum of 25 and a maximum of 74. The applicant is proposing 49
guest rooms.
Spaces.
Oh, sorry, parking spaces, 48.
50 it says on
Yeah, I
one
don't
of
see.
the plans.
Okay. A total of 48 parking spaces is proposed on
49
site.
rooms,
Okay.
right.
So just to that end, and given that the parking regulations are somewhat new, I just want to understand, especially from the applicant, the sort of the basis for establishing that 48. Is it simply what will fit? Is it driven by the room count? Is it driven by expected keys, that kind of thing? So just want to understand a little bit more the basis to help us determine where within that range is the appropriate.
So Rich DeAndrea is our consultant from Colliers who's going to do that. I think now
Yeah.
I mentioned tonight. The supplemental submission is going to update the plan, the program that you already have, and it will detail that, but I'll make sure that Rich is here with us in October.
Great. Thank you.
Assuming there's, but it will be written out, but he'll explain it in more non-traffic, whatever,
Layman's
engineering terms. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
And kind of related to that, I guess, because if we're talking about parking and balancing folks that may be walking here from the train station versus driving here, I think pedestrian connections to this like elevated site that's kind of set back on the hill are important. So I did see there is that pedestrian connection that is added off of the northern building, right? I was just trying to think about if I was someone coming up from the train station, which way I might end up taking, and if I would be coming.
Could come both, yeah.
You could come both, and so what will they do? They will walk up the driveway.
I have to imagine you're come back like Bastia and then up that way, right?
If you were coming past it, yeah, exactly. And then so you're not going to keep
I would say
walking
Beekman, but you
up.
could come to Beekman either way.
You come up the stairs at
Yeah, true, at City
Ferry.
Hall, yeah. Or City Hall, oh, yeah, or, yeah.
So I don't know, and maybe
Your
the
luggage.
elevations are too difficult here or something, or maybe it's something on the other side of the driveway, but if there could be more pedestrian, the parking, and this is an existing condition, that the parking is in front of the building and separating it from the street. So I think you're gonna have to think carefully about the design of pedestrians accessing the site through a large existing parking area, but to get to the building. And then always the comment about the location of mechanical equipment and screening.
Always.
Always. Just there.
Great, thank you. We'll go to Lincoln Tully.
And just for the record, we are going, the intention, same as the traffic consultant, this will be a point-by-point response to the planner's comments as well. So it will, naturally, those, some are reports, but others will be specific response comments
Naturally, yes.
and plan changes.
Thank you.
Of our major comments, the project at this point in time will need a rear yard variance. The applicant has indicated that they are attempting to acquire property to either reduce or eliminate the need for a variance. Perhaps they could fill us in on where they stand with that. A lighting plan will be required for the site. The project should be referred to the City of Beacon Fire Chief for his comments, and the SWIP will need to be updated in a HydroCAD model provided of the stormwater modeling. That'd be the high-level comments.
Sure, I can speak to the setback question right now. 50 feet is required and 23.8 is provided. So the applicant intends to approach the neighbor in connection with that request. It won't be for the full relief because then we'd create a non-conforming condition for that property. So there will be a discussion that would effectively reduce the variance to 3 to 4 feet with the lot line adjustment. So those would all be changes to the plans if there is if the neighboring property owner agrees to a lot line adjustment, it would move our lot line back, and that would decrease the setback that we would need because our building now would be further from that lot line. It's sort of a pinch point based on that sight line of the property itself. So that's what's creating it at that sort of location. But notwithstanding, we would need a variance either for the 23.8 or 3 to 4 feet, depending on how that goes. So tonight's conversation will dictate the applicant's continuing conversations or not with the property owner. But we're going to pursue either or, as the city's engineer mentioned, either some lot line adjustment, which would be added to this application as a sort of a adjustment.
Yep.
You know, we're one lot right now, but like every project seemingly will be somehow a subdivision. So with that, that conversation will take place once we have some feedback tonight about
Okay.
the project design.
So you're a little ways away from your ZB application?
Yes, but we know that needs to be addressed, the secret process and all of the procedural requirements, but to the board to move those forward and just hopefully set public hearings in the future. We know you need a full response to all of these. So the intention is, after tonight, if there's hopefully supportive feedback of where it's going, then we would put all those pieces into the blender and make sure we're fully there for you. And that way we can get the secret process realigned and the public hearing hopefully set
Yeah.
to get into Christmas.
Just thinking out loud, as far as SECRA, where do you stand in the process?
Boards, sorry, go Jennifer.
Yeah.
We circulated, but there's been no secret determination made by the board.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and there's some outstanding items. I mean, we need.
So we got a little
more
ways to go.
information.
Oh, yeah.
So we circulated notice of intent to act as lead. Okay.
Yeah, you need the new updated traffic report, you need
Yeah,
all
so there's a lot of stuff that
yeah.
we got to get to before.
Yep.
Yep, okay. All right, so we've heard from our consultants, we've heard from the applicant. Board, any comments or questions?
I got a comment.
Yep.
I mean, just a general one. I'm generally confused by this building. I don't know what it's trying to be. The new building, the old buildings, I kind of get the architecture of it, but I'm having a hard time and struggling on this new building. And then this entry thing, just not getting it. So my overall comment is I'm just confused. There's like 5 different triangles on this roofing system.
Yeah, we can explain, so for your benefit.
And this is a brand-new build, like, you're not dealing
It's
with
in
any
addition to
old...
the existing old building. So what we
No,
may
the
have-
middle. The middle's
The
new.
middle's in addition to the, there's 2 buildings on this site.
Yes, okay.
So this is in addition to the southern building. So
Mhm.
I'll have Ario kind of actually walk you back to the history, because this plan has changed from its inception. You have the benefit of seeing the original proposal. So
Yes, yeah, I've seen it go through, but I mean, I'm having a hard time just commenting based upon like your aesthetic on it, but like, I'm just looking at it and Aria, I just don't, what is this building? Like, what are you trying to convey? What are you telling us with this building? What is it?
Well, I mean, the general idea is to take some of the language from the existing building, you know, especially the historical, but the newer existing building also has some of those elements. So, you know, we're using those turrets, using a similar, you know, window material. We're pulling over that, you know, cutout porch on the second floor that carries across, you know, from the historic north building again. So you know, basically just taking elements from, you know, or, you know, cues from the existing and then putting them together so they work for the, you know, the new programmatic requirements.
I think I get that. But there's just something about it that doesn't, for me, relate to either of the old original buildings. It's almost like there's too many elements pulled from it. And again, I'm sorry I can't articulate this well enough for you. I don't got the whole architectural speak thing going, but there's like 4 different buildings in the front of this building, right? There's like...
I mean, James, can I add to what you're...
Maybe you can say it better. It's just
I
like,
don't
it
think
seems
so.
schizophrenic.
I think you're raising a good point. I think the design, when I look at that addition, the central structure, you know, I'm getting somewhere between like Victorian and Adirondack Great Camp with the way the, you know, the
Right, or
the
like
corridors,
English Castle,
the porches
like,
around.
what is it?
But the first thing that's kind of throwing me is the entrance still seems very much of a different design detail entirely, especially that large kind of flat roofed cable suspended awning. I think that whole entrance element, to me, doesn't seem to be from the same design language as anything else that's going on. And maybe if you look in that, you know, kind of like in that Great Camp vernacular, something will trigger something that maybe can tweak that. And the other thing I think is the tower and the gable end next to it. I just wonder if there's a different way to approach that. Those two things, they're very close together and they're different. And, you know, I wonder if there's an opportunity for just one large central feature or some other expression of that doesn't look like there's 2 elements cheek by jowl that are kind of fighting, you know, to express themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at, you know, variations on this. I mean, you know, part of that was to...
That was a big help, Lynn.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aria. I needed my translator.
No, you know, and we'll definitely look at the entrance. You know, part of it was in response to the request to, you know, make more of a presence of it. But
it was too. I think initially it was
Yeah.
too understated.
Right.
And now it's got some presence with the revolving door and stuff, which
Yeah.
it's definitely. I think you do want to make a statement with the entrance,
Right.
but it seems so different from everything else. And I also would ask can we see your model from the back view
thank
also?
you.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that
Yeah,
as well.
we're developing that as well. Yeah, and then, I mean, the thing about, we can look at some other way to, you know, look at those 2 adjacent elements in the front. You know, part of that was to keep it smaller scale, you know, similar to the other.
I understand too. You don't want a massive tower that looks like something off the Poughkeepsie Armory in the middle of your...
But we can definitely look at options.
But you, and I'm sure you have constraints with room layouts that you're trying to, you know, achieve. But yeah, there's just something, they just seem crowded.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the other thing in general was that we're because it's, when you look at the whole thing in total, even though it's disconnected from the front, you know, I mean, you know, there's a long sort of facade going on, which is broken in different ways, but but the idea was also to sort of keep that, flowing and a little bit informal, but using elements.
Generally, I feel like it's pleasing.
It's definitely the right approach to, because it is such a long facade, to start to break it up. And there's a like in and amongst themselves individually, these elements are okay, but as a composition, I think that's where it starts to fall apart.
Yeah, I think that central area should be looked at.
Yeah,
Like the ones on the ends, I think work because they're sort of
I'll say
relating.
This, and I think part of what is kind of, or at least I'm responding to, is that yes, you have the vocabulary of the turrets, but there are so many of them at different sort of pitches and sizes. So maybe you look at that. It is a little bit fun, but maybe if you kind of lent a little bit more consistency to them. I'll say this, just sort of starting at the corner closest to the existing historic or older building, that starts out great. And the whole idea of these open porches is very, very nice. I totally agree with Len. The entry needs to be announced, but somehow the design language went awry here. Then the scale, the scale of it is I agree. It's super important.
We'll focus on that
wonky.
entrance and that middle area.
Down.
Yeah. So and again, that's an important element to the sort of experience here. Your sort of first experience sort of interacting with the building is that entry point. So it should be special. So it needs, it needs some evolution. But go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. No, I have a couple of comments, and hopefully they'll be helpful. The general floor plan of this actually kind of works, right? The only thing that I think would improve is if you could pull this building away from the building, I guess, to the north, the secondary building. There's where there's a connection. Yeah. So that it was more distinct. What's awkward about the roof plan that you have now, I think, is that it's you would never see a gable end and a peak exactly in the configuration that you have in a pyramid, right? These are sort of they're not the sort of language that Victorian houses have or other spaces. I like the fact that you're actually not doing a exact imitation of a Victorian house. You're sort of doing a riff on it. There's a series of vertical things. I'm not going to tell you to slavishly copy the exact roof outlines and patterning of Victorian houses that are along 9D, right? Yeah. But you have, if you just selected one or two of the motifs that you had, right? What happens with Victorian houses, a lot of times there's a gable and a peak, and there's a series of other dorms, right? Like in the other houses. If you imitate that in this middle part, it'll look really weird, like you've done a bad imitation of these other things. You don't want to do that, and your intention is good here, that you're trying to do something that is isn't just a sort of a middling copy of the two buildings or halfway in between, So I don't. The other suggestion I have is that you already have like a column and porch language that kind of works, like the recessed porches. And if you use that, a lot of times these types of houses would have a porte cochere or some sort of big balcony, and there'd be you have double columns there and other things that would like make an entrance. It's an entry. It says, "Here's where you enter. Welcome," and it's part of the fabric. So I think that if you expanded on the themes that you already have in the porch in the entry, it would be much more of a piece, right? So that's all I'm,
Yeah, no, that's sort of what's helpful right now, just to get, that sort of higher level feedback, and then, we can look at those items.
Yeah, I like I said, you're on the right path, I think, but. Did you have something?
I do. I have a couple of concerns. One is with the general pedestrian circulation. I think it needs to really have a closer look it's awkward at the moment. And the ramp that is in front of the existing north building, what's that connecting?
Where's that,
The little ramp that's cut into the hillside, like in front of the northernmost existing building?
Oh, yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff, including that and the pedestrian circulation, we're going to address together with the landscaping. Some of the stuff is placeholder and leftover from previous, but yeah, we'll definitely look at that.
I think also the north facade of the new addition building, the roof line is the way that the gable is handled can use some attention. With the site plan, I'm concerned that there's no space for screening along the southern and, I don't know, along the driveway, the new driveway to the back and the parking area. There's no room, particularly along the south side, to add screening for the neighbors. And I don't think that you should limit yourself to the existing parking area. I think that the entrance into this whole complex really needs to be thought about and not necessarily be limited to the outline of the existing paving. I don't think it's working for you. I think a porte cochere is a great idea. I understand you're going to give up some some parking spaces, but also the existing entrance into the site is very difficult coming from the south. Like the visibility is not great coming from the south. So I think the scale of the project warrants really looking at the whole circulation system and not limiting yourself to existing conditions.
Okay.
Anything else, board?
I echo Karen's comments on the screening, but I'm just looking at the maps. Is there any screening that could really be added? There's a fairly steep hillside coming up on the south end of that lot, which is going to impact or basically keep you from planting trees there. It looks like maybe you could go a couple trees more over to the property line, but
yeah, we'll definitely look at maximizing that. It's just that's all in the works now. But I don't have an answer right now, but we'll look at that. We'll make sure that Deborah's looking at those items. It
would probably make for a nicer experience at the hotel too.
Oh yeah, no, if we could do it, it's just that there are a few pinch points, but we'll see what we can do with that. And that building is existing, so it's not something where we can alter the design.
Okay, great. I think a lot of this that we're discussing, obviously super important, but also just want to bring us back to some of Natalie's highlights in her note, just relative to the special permit in HDLO on one undue enlargement. Just as a board, we want to make sure we keep in mind in our discussions. Because as we discuss all of this, if we come around to the thinking at some point that somehow this is too large, we should make sure that we're making the applicant aware of that. Consideration as well, restoration, and a lot of what we're talking about right now goes to that specific provision, the idea of restoration within the HDLO. So again, just want to make sure I highlight those for the board, for us to make sure we keep in mind as we continue the review.
Yeah, how soon can we make some determinations on that undue enlargement? Because that seems to be so critical to the whole footprint and the whole design.
I'd say this. One, Natalie instructed or recommended to the applicant that they provide square footage, right, to understand just the relative scale of this compared to the existing, so we can get a better sense of that. Obviously, we can visualize it, but we don't really know it quantitatively. But to that end, we should start discussing it now.
ASAP.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to bring us back to that, because there's certainly many avenues we can continue to go down, but unless we're keeping each of these in mind as we're discussing, we're missing, I think, a big aspect of the approval, and that is the special permit provisions and provisions of the code that they need to make sure that they comply with. So I think my suggestion is that, yeah, we can, again, visually opine on the scale of it based on what we're seeing, but also there's some empirical data we want to make sure that we have too in order to
we've submitted,
base that assessment.
Sorry, if I may, we did submit or specific sort of details as to how we comply with that criteria, but Natalie's pointed out that it's good to bring back all of this. So that's all going to, I think, be some of that will be reincorporated, but I think will also be supplemented, not supplanted, by that additional detail.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
We'll probably include other information in there just for referential purposes of what we had proposed and what we've reduced. Again, to getting that sort of to the extent practicable type standards. So we'll get to those pieces, but we've gotten there. So
What you've reduced? What do you mean?
From the original proposal to
that doesn't matter. What?
Well,
look, I understand this trick of, hey, it was really crappy when we started, so isn't this much better? We're going to review it based on what you're submitting and what you're asking us to review and approve.
We hear you.
So,
as you know, we work through this. We're not here to. We're here to incorporate the comments into the plan, not to.
I get it. I just want. It's a somewhat of a, I don't know what you call it, but it's a. Look at how awful this was when we initially came in, and isn't it great that we're listening to? Yeah, of course it is. So my point is that we're going to review it based on what you're actually submitting for approval, not what you historically came in with earlier.
We just like to hear that we're great, so that's where we want to keep going.
Thank you. Okay, anything else?
That's it for tonight.
Okay. Great. Anyone need a break? Yes. We'll take a quick 2-minute break. We're getting there. So we're on agenda item number 8. This is the continued review of applications for subdivision approval and site plan approval. Residential 5-unit multifamily dwelling, 193, 195 Main Street.
Taylor, Cutting Fader, other stuff. As we noted, we're before you this evening for site plan review and subdivision lot merger approval, proposing to install a new 1 and partial 3-story addition to the existing mixed-use building at the property. As you all may recall, shortly before the last meeting, the building inspector made a determination that the then proposed design, which was for a new building, which consisted of a freestanding new building on the rear portion of the property, would not conform to the frontage type requirement in the CMS or the sidewalk connection requirement in the CMS and HDLO. The applicant has since modified its plans and now proposes an addition to the existing building instead of a new building. The new addition design provides a physical and functional connection between the existing building and the addition. The 1-story portion of the addition will contain an enclosed walk-in cooler for use by the ground floor tenant in the existing building, a vented trash enclosure for use by the tenants of the existing building and future tenants of the addition, as well as a passage linking the existing building to the addition. The 3-story portion of the addition will contain 5 apartment units. The 2 lots will also be merged. Since the original determination, we understand that the building inspector has had a chance to review the revised plan concept for the addition and confirm that the frontage type and connections requirements would not apply to the current proposal for the addition. In addition to the changes in the overall site configuration, there were some design and facade changes that we started get into briefly at the August 26th, at the August meeting, and then we did note those changes in our August 26th supplemental submission. So before I turn it over to REA to walk through these design changes, I'll just give you a quick overview and highlight of some of those changes that were incorporated to address your comments during the July 8th and August 12th meetings. As we detailed in our August 26th submission, the visual appearance of the proposed addition has been refined with attention to the HGLO and CMS design guidelines for the property. Additional architectural elements such as the cornice and lintels have been incorporated on all sides of the building to provide articulation and heighten architectural interest. Windows or gloss block openings are now provided along the building facades. We have vertical sections of the building above the entryway to have a stepped forward, that has been stepped forward to break up the building facade. And we've heightened the cornice that has been added above that section. It's like all these fire hoses. The balconies were previously, it's like we're near a fire station. The balconies were previously proposed along the northwestern facade of the building have been removed. The plans also include other updates to respond to your comments. That includes the existing and relocated overhead wires were added to the plans. The site lighting surrounding the proposed addition has been adjusted. The wheel stop on the north side of the access drive will be removed, and additional pavement will be added so that the applicant provide a 10-foot wide paved driving connection to Cliff Street. And of course, we have Mike and REA to kind of get further into those details, but I'll have REA walk you through the design changes, and then we can talk to any other questions you might have at this juncture.
This has got to be the most tenuous definition of addition I've ever seen.
What's an addition?
Well,
Oh, that little thing? Because I walk
yeah, it's still attached to the building, so.
but not to the front building. Oh, with a doorway.
Yeah, I think Taylor hit on many of the points of the new design. So you know, basically, again, we just took the comments that you had and tried to respond to that. You know, so we added windows, we articulated the main front facade more, but also the sides have more articulation as opposed to the previous sort of blank side walls. And just got into some more of the details of how the building's put together and the massing. We did take those balconies away, so they are inset so we can get the windows that comply with code, but they're it's a little bit cleaner without the balconies and railings and all that. So again, we realized it's early on, but we wanted to just go through this new design, as an addition, and we will get, renderings from Main Street, because I know that is seen from there. So, we just wanted to review the progress on the design elements.
Okay. We'll go to, oh, you want to go to engineering first? Okay, let's do that. Let's mix it up a little bit. Well, that was one of my questions. Does this technically meet the letter of the law for addition?
Benefits for that? Why would
It
you
does.
do that?
I don't, there's not a defined, there's a definition of an addition, or a connection,
So simply because it's tenuously attached to the building, it classifies as an addition. Okay. You don't need.
What are the benefits of doing that?
It was, without it being an addition, it was not in compliance with certain aspects of the code.
Would have required an area variance for certain
So
criteria. But
they've made this very tenuous connection to the existing building and called it an addition, which I guess technically you don't need to stand up. Meets the letter of the law. Okay, so we'll go to engineering.
So stormwater, soils testing will need to be conducted for the proposed infiltration system. The applicant has indicated this will occur when the planning board generally accepts the proposed layout, so they have an understanding that they're testing in the proper location. Vehicle circulation concerns on the site. The applicant has indicated that updated information will be provided in a future submission to address this. There's concerns about traffic circulation on and around the site. And beyond.
You must be pretty confident that you can address these traffic circulation concerns. You want to talk a little bit about how you plan to and what we anticipate seeing?
We do have Rich D'Andrea from Colliers on this, so we will be, I guess, providing some additional information, but we had some preliminary discussions on how a lot of these things could potentially be addressed. You recall from our original meeting with the board, we had, actually from our pre-submission meeting through, talked about potential other access points. Right now, the existing operating conditions at this site are folks typically just walk through the city's parking lot to get to the back. In fact, there are dumpsters being utilized literally in the city parking lot for the existing tenants of the existing building on the property. So we're trying to come up with some potential alternatives. We haven't fully evaluated them yet, but understanding that circulation has been sort of a discussion both from a vehicle entry point off of Cliff Street, which goes to parking areas, as well as pedestrian access generally to these residences, which could itself be fully functional, just served by the Cliff Street entrance today, some combination thereof. We had an initial discussion with, I guess it's sort of an extension of initial discussions with council or the planning board's attorney today about an opportunity to potentially explore a temporary or at least a non-permanent license agreement over a section of the city's parking area there. There are visuals that we have that we'll provide. We didn't want to put them up, we haven't included them in a submission because we're only sort of evaluating them now to sort of as outgrowths to both the city planner and engineer's comments, and of course your feedback throughout about access. So if you were in the parking lot for the city's parking lot on Cliff Street, if you were to come off of Cliff right in between the city's parking lot and the 6 Cliff application that was just on for approval this evening, there already is an existing buffer strip, green space along that property, that boundary line, that would actually provide a very good separate pedestrian access to the property. Understanding that a project could potentially be built there if the city ever did an RFP. Just by way of just general reference, there would be a 20-foot setback for a building, so you wouldn't really be building but for a variance to that lot line with 6 Cliff. So this area would be a good feasible consideration for that. Of course, that would require the city's approval. Beyond your board, we'd probably have to go to the city council. I think that's the ultimate authority that could even grant such relief. But as it stands, there is existing access off of Cliff Street beyond the 6 and 8 Cliff Street buildings to the rear of the building. Another consideration, just by way of reference and based on the new code requirements, is that the applicant could consider also no parking for the proposal, which is also in line with the city's criteria. In that case, we provide indications of where alternative locations that are owned by the property owner in proximity to the site and or on street or available parking in the area is located. That again would remove any access discussions sort of altogether to the rear. We talked about firematic access in original conversations with the board. The fire chief has been consulted, at least in connection with this. The building itself is being designed to meet the fire and building codes. So access to that site would be truck pulling up and then bringing around or through whatever the shortest point of access is. So there's a lot of, and that's a lot of words and it's a lot of information, but we're really thinking this through in a lot of different ways. So based on, what the board is feeling on this design, we're really trying to, similar to the 1064 application, get your input on whether the building is evolving sort of in its capacity. And I think that will dictate some of these additional discussions because there are ways to kind of make issues that are issues, hopefully not issues. Whether it's a nice wide, berth for Cliff, an entrance off a cliff, so that there's a pedestrian sort of carve out there, or some duality where there's pedestrians that could enter in that area through some striping, and then a new, entrance, as I mentioned, between the 6 Cliff property and the city's parking lot. I think we're just trying to build in some redundancy, but also opportunity to try and address both pedestrian and vehicular safety and access. You didn't expect that answer, did you?
There's a lot of words. It sounds like there's still a lot of gymnastics yet to be done to address access challenges, significant access challenges, both pedestrian and vehicular, and emergency vehicles.
Well, there's existing operations that are, I would rephrase, if I may, as there are existing operations that in a new application may not be as ideal as they would if they were designed today. And that's an existing condition, but we're trying.
Wait, what?
Today, there's vehicles utilizing the Cliff Street entrance to get to the back of the property. So that's an existing condition. So we're now before you with a new application, so we're trying to find other ways to better utilize or function that existing operation. So either that requires us to get an easement from the neighbor.
I get it.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
But it's an existing condition that's operating today. So we're trying to find a better way to do all those things.
What about the two properties to the east on Main Street? They're both accessing their parking by going across your lot, which I think I've mentioned at every
So those,
meeting.
so if I may, those the properties. So if you're looking at the build up from Main Street to the left,
right?
They have there's a portico share. Those lots don't access.
They drive through an alley.
They drive through an alley, but that doesn't get to our property. Yeah, so our property is not. They can't act. We can't
So
access.
they may, without authorization, occasionally go through your lot, but they
Maybe.
have an alternate way of, like you said, they can come right off of Main.
Yep.
Well, there's that tunnel that goes through Main Street.
That's what we're talking about, yeah.
I've never seen anybody use that. When I went back there was a pretty worn track going.
Ironically, I think that property is owned by the 6 Clifford Street owner as well. So it's sort of an ironic.
You conceivably prohibit them from coming across your lot.
You could.
Yeah, I think so, but it kind of seems like we should not be completely ignoring the fact that we're talking about a number of cars that are currently being parked off-street, that unless we're going to start using that curb cut tunnel, which is going to be its own problem,
It's got
frankly.
its own problem in terms of traffic on the sidewalk and just the visibility coming out onto the.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the connection. So this site is not the access to that property, period.
Well, it's being used as the access, and I realize, at least based on what's in front of us right now, they don't have a legal, well, we don't have a basis for thinking they have a legal entitlement for doing so, but.
Yeah, there's no existing recorded easement even for 8 Cliff Street, right? It's just an operating condition that they're using, right? We highlighted sort of the existing condition. They may be doing that, and that's good to know, but it's certainly not a authorized use.
Bear on you, I guess.
Yeah, and there's still the arch, that access is still provided off of Main Street to that lot. Were you referring to vehicles parking on our client's property? Or
No, I'm talking about the 2 adjacent properties.
Right, right. Yeah, so I understand that they access through that, I'm calling it a portico share, but the tunnel.
Okay, so just from a review standpoint, so this is all kind of helpful, I guess, but it sounds like there's still, like I said.
Circulation, yeah, we know that's something that we're going to work on, period. That's a big aspect of this. I think what we're hoping tonight is if there's any more feedback on the architectural.
Yeah, that's
sort
what
of
that's what I was going to start into. However, we didn't hear from Natalie just yet, did we?
Oh, sorry.
No.
No.
All right, so the first 3 comments are in regards to CMS and HCLO design standards. So I think with the visible facade treatment, we've talked about this, that there's language in the code that all architectural features that are visible from public areas or public parking. So I think the board's requested a number of times a visual from the corner of Cliff Street and Main Street. So just to kind of see where this falls in context of the neighboring buildings and how much of this you're going to be able to see from that public space since that's in the code. So I think when we can get there and provide that
Yeah.
might help the conversation.
I go one step further. I would like to, obviously, that's one of the most visible vantage points of this, but I'd like to be able to see it from any possible vantage point from Main Street.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
When we get that view, can we see this? I just want to.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Too.
Yeah, you're like saying like catty corner.
Sorry. I was just saying I'd love to get, I think you're asking for this elevation. I'd love to get it with the existing building.
Yeah, it should
shown too.
obviously take into account context. Yeah, but, yeah. If that's the only point at which you can see this building, great. But if there are other possible locations from which this building can be viewed, we'd like to see those views as well.
Yeah, okay. REA has been developing that specific, but I think we'll have to look at the second request, which is an outgrowth of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so also within those sections, there's the language about entrance orientation and sidewalk connection, which we've talked about. So it says, shall have front entrance door facing primary street connected to the sidewalk. So while the applicant indicates a connection to Main Street, it is unclear whether this access is generally functional. So I think at this point, it's unclear to me, I guess, since I haven't seen the floor plans of the existing building, whether residents may be required to pass through ground floor commercial space to reach their units, or how are they, right? So now their access, you're saying their main entrance access is through the existing building. So I think we should see that in the plan sets. We don't really have the floor plans for those existing buildings to understand how they're entering. So full ground floor plans of existing and proposed should be provided to confirm whether residents' entrance is independent from the commercial entrance and whether Main Street connection is viable or merely nominal. And then I did know, given that the proposed addition also includes a secondary entrance that is likely going to serve as the true primary access for residents, since that's where you're kind of designing the entrance feature for this new building. Again, requesting a direct and safe pedestrian connection to Cliff Street be required. So however you figure out that circulation, whether that driveway in the back off of Cliff becomes all pedestrian or is shared. Right now, it's narrow even for cars. So if you're going to have likely residents, new residents walking there to reach their building, because that's more convenient than walking through the existing, that should be a clear, safe pedestrian path. There's language in here about materials complying and being and complement adjacent buildings. So when you get to the elevations with material callouts. There was a new note on this plan, I think, that so right now, commercial deliveries, as you noted, are kind of happening in the municipal lot, and they're going through that cut that's through the side of the property. I think the plan has something noting that that connection will remain. There's a door with a gate there, but you're saying that's not where the deliveries are going to occur. So does that gate need to be there if that's not where the deliveries are going to continue to occur, or is the intent to still have deliveries function that way? And if so, that should just be some kind of agreement worked out with the city. I note the same comment about driveway easements, about having to kind of cross, so I won't reiterate that. Landscape area, my math wasn't mathing with your math. I was getting 9% where you guys are saying 10.
Okay.
So maybe just check on those numbers in terms of make sure you're meeting that minimum requirement of landscaped area. Kind of back to the same comment about the pedestrian connection through Cliff is lighting along that access driveway. I think you had talked about looking at feasible options for lighting if you continue to use the Cliff Street access point, lighting that driveway. Lighting fixtures on the lighting plan to be provided. And then I think just because this is such a unique site and it's so constrained for access to this, I think this would be an appropriate project to ask for a construction logistics plan in terms of where hours of construction, contractor staging areas, pedestrian detours, because it looks like construction for this might have to be somewhat off-site. I'm not clear, so I think just specifying that would be helpful for the board as well. And that's it for my comments right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to ask a question, a very astute and respected planning board member just asked, what is this building? I mean, I just don't understand some of the architectural treatments. One, are you suggesting the use of glass block as infill to a lot of these windows?
So, some kind of solid product. I was also looking at like a channel glass or something, but it can't be windows.
Why?
You can't have windows on a lot line like that. And the applicant doesn't want to squeeze the building in to do that.
It just feels like trickery.
Then, okay, look. It's a bad solution to a bad approach, right? Being right up against the lot line and trying to create,
Yeah, I did review that with the applicant, but he doesn't want to lose the building area.
Yeah, so he doesn't want to lose the building area. So the recommendation for the design of this is to, because this particular elevation is visible, is to present a rather what I would consider ugly face to your neighbors and to the community.
I mean, it's going to be a similar, masonry punched opening like the actual windows, but instead of just regular glass operating, it would be a solid thing like either that vertical channel glass or block or something. Or the other way to do it is to just put blind windows there and back paint them.
Again,
so they look like windows.
it's a poor solution to a self-created problem. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Then what is the material that you're suggesting for the centerpiece here? It almost looks like particle board.
No, it's like Corten.
Oh.
Which
It
goes
just
pretty
does
well
not
with-
make sense, Aria. I don't like the massing of this thing is bad. And then on the east side, that whole facade, there's just this strange relationship of forms and, right, you've got that high piece, and on the south elevation, it rectifies itself. It kind of makes sense. You've got these groupings of windows centered in the, in between the high piece, and then on the east side, you've got that high piece still, but the windows have no relationship to it. You're using the same poor solution to a really tight lot line condition on the windows there. You've got this mix of languages, the steel girders still come through, but then you've now introduced this glass element at the ground floor. Whatever that plinth is doesn't continue, the limestone, if that's supposed to be what it is, the Corten goes all the way to the ground. None of it makes sense. So, I don't know, maybe you already know this, but this just needs work to make sense as, a building that has neighbors who have to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, the solid glass idea was a way to get, some additional
understand.
light into the apartments. I could just make those look like the other windows, but they wouldn't be real.
Right, again, you're
Yeah.
backing yourself into, or the applicant is backing themselves into a series of poor solutions to a self-imposed problem.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say
Yeah,
on
I
the
know.
matter.
I
No matter
understand
how
that.
many times you
Yeah.
say it's going to be either this or that or another thing, it's not a window.
No, but the direction I got was to work with, the building going up to the property line, so I'm trying to, do what I can with that.
Again, a series of poor solutions to a self-imposed problem. That's all I'll say on the matter. Anyway, I've said my piece. Anyone else, board?
I just concur with everything you've stated.
You said it all for me.
Oh, good.
Why?
That's rare. Wow.
Is it a parking thing that it's on stilts? Is that
There's parking underneath, yeah.
underneath it?
Yeah.
And then the addition to, do you have to walk through Beacon Bread's kitchen to get to the walk-in freezer to get to the door to enter this extension?
No,
How are you getting to?
the residents would come, right now they're coming through Cliff Street, and we're also looking at that.
So they
other-
walk up the driveway,
Yeah,
and the driveway's big enough to have a family of 3 or 4 walk down it with cars coming in and out of it?
but we need to look at how to control that, but that's the other, alternate solution that we're looking at.
So
To try
either
to
down the
separate that out,
dangerous
yeah.
driveway for mom and the kids, or through Beacon Bread's kitchen?
No, Beacon Bread's
no.
kitchen's not an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be fair, this driveway isn't that long. It's not like people are gonna be clipping down at 20 miles an hour or
Right.
something. I mean, it's a short stretch.
Got it.
It's
Okay,
tight.
that's all I got.
It's a tight, short stretch.
So if there's 2 cars parked in the 2 spots that you have designed for, and a 3rd car drives in and there's no room for it, how does it get
How many
out?
cars are in the parking lot now?
Right. So,
How does it get out?
Well, there's turnaround room back there. There's the 24-foot, backup, so they would maneuver out.
What if there was 3 cars
No.
back there already?
There's two, right, if there's 2 cars, you have the handicapped access area, but you can't turn around.
If I may, I think with all of the words that Mr. Palmer provided, that's what they're trying to explain, is that they're still studying all of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then, you could make that turn there, though? You could get from that driveway and turn and not drive on your neighbor's property?
No.
No.
So,
They're still
how is this
studying
even a
it.
thing, then?
They're still
figuring
studying
out.
it.
Oh, gotcha.
So we'll have to wait.
Good luck.
Yes,
Lots to do.
lots to do. Anything else? Okay. Okay, that brings us to the last regular agenda item. Review of request for amended site plan approval, mixed-use commercial and residential, 416, 420 Main, submitted by 416 Main Street, Beacon. Are there no other attorneys in Dutchess County?
Just the mentee.
Corner
Love
of the
you.
market, my man.
Good evening, as the only attorney in Dutchess County, Taylor Palmer, Cuddy and Fader, joined by my other attorney in Dutchess County, Jessica Zalem. I'm also joined by the project's civil engineer, Mike Bodendorf, of Hudson Land Design, who's grabbing the thingamajiggy, technical term, and of course, we're joined by REA. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we are here for you for what we're sort of calling as a planning board authorization, and I guess we'll get to that based on section 17 of your original approval resolution, which somehow was in 2021. That's a long time ago, but it feels like that. So we are here to talk about 416, 420 Main Street now, the Wild, and some other mixed uses that have come online. I think a pretty cool, and probably my favorite food right now in Beacon, but that's a bit biased.
And also a building that tends to get really rave reviews on Facebook from the city of Beacon. People love, that's always the building that they say, that building came out great.
And I'd say 4 years later, we're not talking about the sign, that we were not here to talk about the sign, which is there.
I already posted about the sign. And the glass wall conundrum is now gone.
So
I already posted photos of the sign on Facebook, though, like a week ago.
So with that, the sign is there. The applicant is seeking your approval to either omit, remove the small live-work building that was previously contemplated for the rear of the property. The request is submitted in accordance with condition 17 of the board's May 2021 approval resolution, which I won't get into specifically now, but that's why we're back before you. As you may recall, in the May 21 approval resolution, the board authorized the applicant to construct a 4-story mixed-use building fronting on Main Street, as well as the smaller live-work building in the rear of the property, together with a public green space between both of those buildings. In accordance with that resolution, the applicant has completed the construction of the 4-story mixed-use building and received a temporary certificate of occupancy from the building department to construct for the 4 floors that have been built, which is set to expire later this month, around September 25th. The applicant has also installed the public green space, as noted on the site plan, and that was included in our August 26th submittal. Some additional photos of all of the site conditions as they exist today, some new sodding, some a trash receptacle, the sign, among other things, have just been provided to Bruce, but that's dealing with, I would call it de minimis field changes rather than what we're here before you tonight, which is again to seek omission or removal of that live-work building from the back of the property. So with that, after much consideration, the applicant has decided not to move forward with that live-work building at this time, and as a consequence, based on our team's recent discussions with the building inspector, we are seeking the planning board's approval to omit or remove that small live-work building from the site plan. Specifically, the resolution at condition 17, the last condition of the approval said any proposed revisions to the approved subdivision or site plan drawings, except revisions determined by the building inspector and city engineer to be field changes, shall be submitted to the planning board. The planning board, in its discretion, shall determine the appropriate procedures for consideration of the proposed revision and whether such revision is material enough to require further environmental review and analysis and/or further project review as the board may deem appropriate. So that was the condition that's specific to this project that you don't see in your standard rezos, so to speak. So with that, we do submit that the removal of the smaller building is an immaterial change to the larger overall project approval. It would not require additional environmental review. We're eliminating a building and effectively trying to work up additional improvements, not adding anything else to this site plan and design. So I can certainly have Mike walk you through at least the plan as it's configured, or however the board sees fit. Maybe just give you a quick sense of what's there now and what's been improved, and then we can...
Can I just catch up? I apologize. They're supposed to build a live-work studio back there that's been approved through the board and is waiting to be built. Now they don't want to do it, and they want to put parking spots back there.
So there was always parking there. The board granted a waiver in 2021 for more parking. So the code has changed too since this was approved. Parking requirements back then, typically the planning board would waive parking for commercial components, but required at least something to be utilized for residential. This building has one unit, that the fourth story, that was a residential component, and the live work. So there were 2 tandem spaces that were provided for that live work building. So they're adjusting that to just be the 2 spaces, and then...
So it used to be a building right here and then 2 spaces right here.
Yeah, up on South
And now
Street.
they're getting rid of
So
that
it's just
building.
the elimination of the building.
All we're doing is getting rid of the building.
So let me just cut to, interestingly, our consultants were having a little back and forth about whether there should be less parking or more parking. I know that the current status is you've got sod down, I think, to about basically up to where it says on the plans, 30 feet. So without removing the sod, there's kind of limited options here. I mean, unless I'm missing something, my take on everything that was on the agenda was, this kind of boils down to what do we do, what, if anything, do we do with the parking? This building's going away.
Can I speak on 2 issues, one procedure and one what you just, basically the scope of the application? So as far as procedure goes, yes, there is a condition in the resolution that Taylor read that says that the planning board in its discretion determines basically what the procedures are for revisions to the application. However, there's also the city code that says something completely contrary to that. So the city code requires that all revisions to site plans, so site plan amendments, have to be subject to the same approval procedure as the original application, meaning a public hearing and, the same procedures that we would go through. So my recommendation would be that in compliance with the condition, perhaps, that you use your discretion to follow the code and require a public hearing and your normal procedures here.
That sounds right.
So that's the procedure part of it.
Yeah.
The scope of review, I think, yes, the applicant is proposing the elimination of the live work building at the rear of the property and maintaining the 2 parking spaces there. I think we also, whether it's tonight or for a future meeting, I think we also need to hear from the building inspector with respect to
Field changes.
changes to the public green space,
Yep.
which was a really important component of this application. There have been some changes made from, during construction, from the approved plan, and most of those occurred, I believe, prior to Brian's time here, right? So I think we need to drill down on which of those changes are field changes, and are there any of those changes that should be folded into this application so that it's part of the amended site plan approval?
Helpful, thank you. So on the second piece first, yes, I think, again, instead of us playing Where's Waldo, we need a sort of a list of what elements were changed from the original, so we can make that determination of what then rises to the level of, back to the first point, I agree as board member with our attorney's recommendation that we use our discretion to default back to the city code requiring a resubmission.
Well, not a resubmission, just this would set for a public hearing for next month.
Well, the re-review, yes.
Right, and the type 2 action under seeker would be exempt from environmental review, or it would consider...
It would be an amended...
Or an amended negative
Typically,
declaration.
the way we've handled amended site plans like this in the past is an amended neg deck.
Yeah.
I don't think there's, look, I don't want to like
We
put
wouldn't
words in
do
your
secret
mouth
public
or
hearing.
make the decision for you, but, you know, with the elimination of development, I can't imagine it would be anything but an amendment.
We'll note this specifically, but just for the benefit of the board, since we did submit this to the building inspector, the park signage, the green space sod, and additional access point were installed. Those were field changes. There was also a trash receptacle installed. Those were effectively prior conditions of your approval, but things that we needed to satisfy when we were working towards a full CO. But the full CO was not going to be issued without installation or completion of the live-work building. So with that, the overall field changes included a reconfigured layout of the green space to meet or exceed the prescribed size. So in the May 21 plan, we had about, it required at least approximately, it requires 2,315 square feet of green space. The site plan shows the public green space as 2,363 square feet, and the total landscaped area on the property is about 2,710. So the adjustments have only enlarged that green space, but we'll more precisely articulate that and I guess coordinate with.
Can we have an as-built?
Oh, sorry, Karen.
Could we have an as-built plan for the?
Yeah, that's effectively what, yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
would
I
be
mean, I
what the
think-
review covers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's what Brian would
ultimately,
need.
this will be Brian's determination to make what was a field change, what
That's
wasn't, right? I think
great.
some of the other things to take a look at, though, are like the reduction in the lawn area. There seems to be you know, I'm not going to characterize the size of it, but there is a reduction in the lawn area in favor of additional landscaping along Skank.
When they build out
Yeah.
the dumpster.
And then also the dumpster enclosure
Right.
And then the
seems
other-
to have enlarged or been eliminated
Hold
altogether.
on,
in
two
favor
people
of-
talking at once.
Yeah.
Brian?
Like saying that I received them walking out the door.
Okay, quick question, different direction. The parking lot, is this going to be asphalt or gravel?
It's gravel.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, and I understand you're looking at an expiring CO. There is, I think, discretion by the building inspector to extend that CO. Is that right? I don't know.
believe there is.
Meaning, we're going to go through the process, so, you know, you mentioned your certificate of occupancy potentially expiring, right?
Right.
So,
We don't believe that it's, I mean, I'm not going to get into legal arguments, but we don't believe that the intent of that the CO couldn't be issued for the four-story building, period, with respect to the building out of the live-work building. So we think that it could be completed, but maybe the building inspector will be able to proceed with that, knowing that this is being removed from the application and adjusted, you know, pending. So
yeah,
we'll-
that's what I mean. I think
yeah,
there's
we'll coordinate that with the building
there's
inspector. but
certainly
The
discussion
applicant has made it very
to be
clear
had
that
on
it's
that.
not building the live-work
Okay.
building.
All right, so we're going to,
Set for hearing, and I believe, I guess, based
Yeah.
on Jennifer's recommendations, circulate for seeker.
you want to okay, yeah, so we should then do that. So motion to, do we need to circulate for,
Just declare intent.
declare intent to act as lead?
To continue in our role.
Okay, so motion to circulate notice to continue planning board role as lead agency in secret review.
Motion to circulate notice to continue planning board lead agency role in secret review.
Nice.
From
Motion
Len.
by Len,
Second, that.
second by David. No, you got to say the whole thing. All in favor?
Aye.
And then I'll accept the motion to set public hearing for the month of October.
Motion.
Motion by Len,
Second.
second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Wait, one question. Like I said, the thing I got out of the applicant, or out of the consultant reports is, should we leave the parking the same? Should we maybe get rid of a little and plant some more grass or trees, or should we add another parking spot? Does the applicant have a view on that?
We'll clarify, but one way or the other, I think we have to address their comments. So I think the intention is at a minimum 2. So I don't know, because they're still serving the existing 4-story building. Like, it wasn't just for the live-work building. So, I'm sorry. Starting to lose my voice, but.
Yeah, the crux of the comments is like, it looks like there's space not being utilized there now, right? So like, how can we better utilize that on that site, whether it's parking or more open space or more
Right.
landscaping?
And it may be some combination of all of that. I don't
Yeah.
think that can't be worked out or functioned, but the intention is to maintain at a minimum, the 2 spaces, however that gets
My other
visualized.
comment, I was trying to look back because I wasn't here, so I was looking back at the old plans, and
Mhm.
I don't have a sign set, but I was looking at
Yeah.
the most recent set I had, and it looked like the live work building had lighting on it on this side, on the side facing the open space. So
Right.
I can only imagine, we don't have the plan here, but what is that doing to the lighting of the site? Is lighting sufficient from street lighting, or are you proposing new lighting?
There is
to
a,
replace-
yeah, there's a
street
street light on the
right there.
corner right there, and there's also, I mean, for purposes of the park, it is only open, I keep doing this, I knew it, told Jennifer I was going to do this. It's only open until dusk. I was going to say it's only open until dawn, but it's not. It's open until dusk.
Mhm. But there's still things for safety lighting and stuff, even if people aren't using it. I mean, there was lighting on the building before.
Yep.
That lit a portion of the site. I don't believe that lighting's here anymore because the building's not here and it was wall mounted, so just asking about what the intent was for that.
Yeah, that's correct. The intent of that lighting was not to eliminate the park, though, because it isn't open after dusk. And Taylor mentioned there are 2 light poles, street lights, one located here and one located at the corner, so there will be illumination at night there,
Okay.
beyond, you'll be able to see, but the intent is not to have this park open after dark.
Spots versus.
Is there any other lighting in the open space area or none at all?
No.
No? Okay.
Yeah, but isn't there spillover lighting from that porch area outside?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's like after that closed.
I'm trying to compare this one sheet to like a site plan approval that I didn't have to see what's changed. So if there's changes like that, so the building got removed, this lighting that would have maybe been casting light here, like what are the other things that are changing or being?
We'll get confirmation on the applicant explicitly. I mean, what's shown is what's proposed, but I think he's as you know from the original discussions on this, very wanted to get, I think the vision has been really seen on that property. I mean, you see this thing and it's like, yep,
Yeah.
like the board did an awesome job of getting this thing to be that cool. And now it's just an extension of keeping it really cool without taking away from what's been done to make it super cool. Those are all technical terms.
Super cool.
Okay. Great, so we'll see you next month on this one.
And maybe it happened, but now I'm lost. We did set for public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I lost in your technical terms. Okay.
All right, so are you the 90-day extension?
That'd be me.
What do you got?
Could I have a 90-day extension? 2 of them? For the record, Taylor Palmer, Cutting Fader. Just we're here. They're continuing to work through the application or through the conditions of the approval. They have put together some additional materials that I think are being submitted. They've had some difficulty with just the existing project consultants, so some of that has led to internal issues just getting it before the city's consultants to get it signed, sealed, and delivered.
Okay, so you're asking for 2 here?
2 90 days, yes.
2 90 days, okay. Motion to grant 2 90-day extensions for 152, 158 Fishkill.
Motion to grant 2 90-day extensions.
Motion by Len.
Second.
Second by James, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
You don't want to stick around for the signs?
Come on.
I don't think anybody wants to use us for that yet.
Which one was the one that? Nice meeting you, bud.
You want me to just sign it now?
Is it 14, one of them got.
Good night, thank you.
Or adjourned.
Good night.
Erica, you
Take
can
care.
Is she first?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Oh, 139 adjourned.
Right.
Hi.
Adjourned.
You made it.
We'll let things clear out just a sec.
You can come up here though, eventually. Yeah, you
No, use the microphone. Yeah, we're still on record, so.
Oh, so we're skipping over the
Yeah,
one
that's
that's moving?
been pulled.
Yeah.
So great, good evening. Thanks for waiting through all of that. We have your application here for a new blade sign, Soul and Culture Boutique. Looks like it's being mounted to one of the piers on the building there.
Could you just point out which wall it's being mounted to? If you want to, sorry. Is it this, it's one of these, right? One of these 2? Is it this one?
No, it's going to be over here.
On this,
Okay.
right
Yes.
there.
thank you.
For the record, it's when facing the building, it's the right side of the building. Okay,
Where's
we're
the-
within size
Where's the
requirements.
boutique going?
What's that, Jim?
Where's the boutique going?
In that porch with its double red doors, right?
Oh, the
There used to
double
be
red
like a
doors?
gallery space or
Ah, yes, it was like Sybil or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Saw that?
And then Sybil moved
Gotcha.
A long time ago, it was a really good Mexican restaurant.
Handcrafted
Oh
goods?
my God,
It's
wow,
pretty nice.
forgot about that.
What's
What
that?
was
So
it?
like
Wasn't it like one of the
The
Cafe
Mexican restaurant
Maya
for Blink.
entities before they moved
And
in?
then, what's his name was in there?
They were like Dominicans, and they were there for
Right?
just a year or two. It was super awesome. Like this old.
Sure, we
I don't remember. Okay, I think we're good. So, yeah, we're just reminiscing. We're all so old, we've been here so long.
Sorry.
They moved, so they had at the end of.
This looks great.
Okay, so motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Len.
Second.
Second by Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Yep.
All right.
We did
And
it.
that brings us
Good
to a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Len.
Second.
Second by James, all in favor?
Aye.
We made it just before 11 o'clock.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
no, we didn't.
Oh, no, we broke 11. That's not bad, though.
You're never going to beat Randall.
Snacks for you.